Kiwi. Hello there. Bon, allez, bonsoir tout le monde, comment ça va? Bienvenue, bienvenue. Ah, hello. Ah, je me mets devant le chat, quel dommage. Attends, on va prendre celle-là plutôt. Vite. Bienvenue, j'espère que vous allez bien aujourd'hui. Bienvenue sur BFFR. Nouveau live aujourd'hui. Simple fait que... Écoutez. Mon vrai chier, j'arrive pas à gamer. En tout cas, pas longtemps. Pas genre 4 heures de live, justement. Donc je me suis dit, on va prendre ça tranquille aujourd'hui. Ok? Et nous, je l'avais déjà prévu, je voulais qu'on regarde un speedrun de Jedi Fallen Order ensemble. Pourquoi? Parce que c'est cool. Et parce qu'on va peut-être essayer d'en reproduire un peu. Mais bref, ça on verra. Donc salut Nara, Yeager bonsoir, Kiwi hello there, Tourneur, Gougou Nara, Florian bonsoir, Vincent bonsoir. This is time for duel. Comment ça va Kiwi? Plaisir de te voir. Pas le streamer et le stream levé écran. Non, pas de tout. Non, le streamer a tout perdu, son setup de streaming, donc... Ah là là. C'est vrai que là j'ai racheté le chat, donc ça sert à rien de mettre cette image-là. Tiens, on va montrer qu'est-ce que ça va donner. Hop. Mettre ça là. Hop. On va switch cette merveille. On dirait presque Kiwi. Donc, je vous ai un peu clickbait. Je vais pas vous cacher. On va pas... Genre, je vais pas mentir. Ce n'est pas le record du monde. Ok? Ça reste qu'il est très proche. Genre, on parle de quelques minutes à peine. C'est plus sympa de regarder celui-là parce que c'est The Games Done Quick. Donc Games Done Quick, c'est une organisation de speedrunners. Ils font passer pas mal tous les jeux de toute l'existence. Puis tous les speedrunners vont là pour... en général, tu sais, il y a des événements de charité, etc. Donc leurs dons vont à des charités. C'est super nice. Puis c'est surtout, ils expliquent qu'est-ce qui se passe dans le speedrun. Donc ouais, ils expliquent qu'est-ce qui se passe dans le speedrun, ce qui va être beaucoup plus intéressant pour nous de comprendre comment ils ont fait certaines choses, hein, comment certaines sections sont passées plus rapidement, certaines mécaniques qu'ils utilisent, parce que il y a des trucs genre il y a des trucs vraiment bizarres dans ce jeu. Ce jeu-là, Jedi Fallen Order, vous allez voir, c'est brisé comme le saint tabarnak. Genre vous pensez que c'est fine. Oh man, ils font des trucs chelous là, je vous jure. J'ai vu comme 3-4 minutes de gameplay et je voulais pas me spoil à quoi ressemble le speedrun de ce jeu. Justement parce que je voulais le regarder avec vous. Mais c'est ça qu'on va aller voir. Moi j'ai super hâte parce que voilà, ils l'ont fait en... Je vous le dis maintenant, 1h45 celui-là. Je pense que le record est dans les 1h20 quelques, bref, quelque chose du genre. Donc ils vont faire les mêmes mécaniques. C'est la même run, c'est juste que lui il va sûrement faire quelques erreurs parce qu'il est en live pour un gros événement, il y a plein de personnes qui le regardent, etc. Donc c'est normal, mais ça reste que 1h45 pour un jeu qui m'en a pris 15 heures. Voilà. C'est chaud, genre juste l'autre jour le défi ça nous a pris 4 heures, bref. Vous pensez? C'est en anglais, mais je suis là pour vous expliquer ce qui va se passer, bien sûr. Dès que ça va être technique. Mais je pense que ça va être assez clair la plupart du temps, de toute façon. Bref. En tout cas, merci d'être là, c'est le plaisir de vous avoir aujourd'hui. Bienvenue sur le stream. On va lancer dans 2 secondes. Juste voir, qu'est-ce que j'oublie? J'oublie quelque chose d'important? Non, voilà, c'est bon. Ok. Mais ouais, c'est ça, sorry. Pas game aujourd'hui, j'ai reçu quelques vaccins. En fait, plusieurs vaccins d'un seul coup, donc ça... Disons que je peux pas aller plus haut que ça, tu vois. Je peux pas arriver à la hauteur de mon clavier. Ah là là, bref, c'est pas grave. Fallen Order sur PS4, 15 heures de jeu pour 30 heures de chargement. Lol. Mais c'est ça, eux. C'est ça qu'on va découvrir, c'est que je devine que certaines sections vont faire laguer le jeu aussi parce que t'es pas supposé passer certaines sections trop rapidement, donc faudrait qu'ils fassent attention. Je me demande comment la run va aller. Ça va être... Mec, il est déjà... Oh. Ah, déjà là. Oh, mais quelle horreur. Oh. Mais attends, il passe d'Atomir au complet presque direct en fait. Il est jamais sur d'Atomir. Quoi? Attends, mais... Waouh. Allez, ok, c'est ça que tu vois. Ça va être intéressant de voir tout ce qu'ils vont faire. Donc on va y aller. Puis prenez votre popcorn, on s'installe tranquille. Regardons ce petit speedrun. Puis écoute, et si on trouve ça nice, peut-être que je tenterai quelques trucs. On va pas le faire au complet le jeu en speedrun, mais c'est déjà juste la première section sur Braca, tu vois. Ça a l'air spécial. Si on réussit à faire ça, c'est bon, genre. Il y a un cut à Datomir insane. Ah, Naraikone, c'est bon ça. C'est bon ça.
So I'd also like to thank the Jedi Fallen Order speedrunning community because without them, I would absolutely.
J'aimerais vous dire son nom, je sais pas son nom. Ça a été fait... Ouais, c'est ça. Il y a un estimé de 2 heures, lui il le fait un peu plus rapidement. Il va avoir le temps ici que vous allez voir qui avance. Malheureusement, on n'a pas de classique différents temps records sur le côté, mais ça c'est Game Done Squid qui font ça.
For some reason, I decided to play it another 1,000 hours and speedrun it and just.
Ok, je pensais qu'il allait speedrun en grand maître. J'étais comme, t'es un malade.
Because we don't do any of that in the game. This is my first speedrun.
Ouais, j'ai déjà pas mal de speedrun. Attends, est-ce que toi t'en as fait? Ou est-ce que tu regardes les speedruns? Pinache, bro. Ah, Pinache, oui, ok, c'est ça. Son nom est là. Ouais, voilà. Hello there, Klimbo! Donc, il va... Tu sais quoi? On va passer tout ça. Moi, je vais changer ma caméra parce que je suis un peu dans le chemin en ce moment. Tac. On va mettre celle-là, ça va être mieux. Voilà, ils sont deux. Donc il y a lui qui joue, il va expliquer certains trucs, mais en général il y a comme un narrateur qui nous explique ce qui se passe, qui va être nice. Là, il est à 0%, il est dans la difficulté la plus basse bien sûr pour être possible. Voilà. Et on commence en Braca au début du jeu, classique. Bon, on connaît. Braca est un... C'est intéressant parce qu'il y a beaucoup de cinématiques sur Braca. Ah, c'est parti. Déjà, on commence avec des roulades. Voilà, la roulade est la plus rapide pour l'instant. Pour l'instant. Tutoriel, hein, mais ça, il s'en bat les couilles du tutoriel. Je regarde, je suis trop nul, moi. Salut Maximilien, salut Naël, Bigus, bonsoir.
The reason that it's important to get in front of Prof is because if Prof attempts to jump across a gap before Cal can get there, he knocks the ledge down and Cal has to do this slow climbing animation.
Wow, hey, désolé de couper, c'est super intéressant ce qu'il vient de dire, c'est qu'au début dans l'histoire, si on prend trop de temps, lui il passe devant, tu vois, puis il brise un des rebords de la map, ce qui fait en sorte que tu perds du temps, mais si tu te dépêches à faire assez de roulades, bah, tu passes devant lui et comme ça tu gagnes du temps, genre. Wow. Salut Gavin.
That's also one of the advantages of loading up a save file. We don't have to deal with that because Prop, like, he's like the Flash. When you actually start a new game,
à date, ça va. Il n'y a rien de trop spectaculaire. C'est juste des roulades. Mais bon. Oh, déjà, on a... Oh my god.
We don't have that problem. We can just run or roll past Prof very easily. We don't have to worry about that whole platforming thing. But go on and presume what you're talking about, Bingham. Just wanted to add on there.
Yeah, that's great. So now that Panache has come off of that slide, he has the ability to sprint, which is
Là, il peut courir
now his
enfin.
fastest movement option for
Faisons une
when he's
roulée.
on flat ground. If he's moving up a slope, though, he will still have to roll in order to move as quickly as he possibly can, because slopes slow you down. He just did a climbing section. Climbing sections are very finicky in this game. We'll talk a little bit more about them later.
Sauter, ça va plus vite sur les rebords comme ça, plutôt que marcher. Bien, bon, ça fait du sens en vrai. Ici, il y a un skip qui montre pas, mais théoriquement, tu peux genre... Tu peux viser le droïde Gong qui est là, de ce que je me souviens, puis tu fais un espèce de move là, en tout cas tu sautes dessus, puis tu peux sauter par-dessus la map, puis comme ça t'as pas de faire le truc lent ici. Parce que ça c'est lent, tabarnak, puis tu peux théoriquement passer au-dessus de la map.
Balance beam is tough because the camera is ripped out of your control, and so if you're using mouse and keyboard in particular, it can be very tough to reorient yourself in such a way that you can hit.
Mode pour la coiffure de Cal, ouais, il y a un mode.
Yeah, it's a lot easier in controller.
Yes, controller has its advantages and disadvantages.
Oh, il vient d'activer la caméra là.
One of the advantages of controller.
Je pense qu'il a skip une sorte de cinématique.
Ok.
Il vient de skip encore une partie, juste avec la corde. Avec l'angle qu'il avait. Nice. Ouais, c'est ça, cette section est super lente. Quand tu grimpes et tout. Oh.
Very precise and very optimized. Panache, if he has a really great run or a very terrible run, those runs will probably fall within about 2 or so seconds of each other at this point. So there's not a lot of room for huge improvement, and it's very reset heavy. So any error, no matter how small, causes us to go all the way back to the beginning of the game.
Petites erreurs, là, ça lui fait redémarrer au début.
Panache made by jumping as close to the corner of that first clamp as possible. If he does it very precisely correctly, it's almost pixel perfect. He can actually reach all the way around the corner in his first jump. And now we are into our first mini cutscene, which will then take us on to kind of a cutscene playable section. So.
Là, ça va, il est rendu à 4 minutes, mec, puis il a presque fini Braca.
Read some donations, and then we'll start talking about what this game really is.
Attends, cinématique, ouais, on va skip les cinématiques, on connaît.
So this game for working as a scrapper on the planet Braca, which is the one we're on now. Taking apart capital ships from the era of the Galactic Civil War.
J'aimerais bien qu'on puisse passer cinématique dans le prochain. Ouais, ça serait bien.
En
tout cas pour ce genre de truc.
And Cal actually cut himself off from the Force partially to avoid being detected by the Inquisitors, which are basically the Jedi police.
The Jedi police.
Well, you'll meet them soon enough.
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, Cal blows it right here when he saves his buddy Prof from falling to his death.
À date, ouais, ça c'est similaire, mais en fait c'est très cinématique heavy là, donc tu peux rien faire ici pour aller plus vite, malheureusement.
He probably could have done a little bit better if he had not used his real name on the planet.
No wonder he made it 5 years.
Exactly. He's not exactly an unknown guy, and his former master, who died during Order 66, was a legendary Jedi master by the name of Jaro DePaul, which of course no one has ever heard of if you have not played this game. We're not going to spoil that much for you in this game today. This run is pretty deviant from the way that you would play this game casually.
Ouais, j'ai l'impression que tu vas skip beaucoup des trucs de pouvoir que tu as besoin pour partir certains lieux.
We are going to spoil. If you have not played this game casually, you might want to avert your eyes for the last maybe minute or so. We'll give a little bit of a warning before that happens. But the rest of the game, you could watch the speedrun almost all the way through and not have any part of it ruined for you. For sure, the most interesting character in the game, meet him. Bardic.
Le train.
Actually,
il a déjà fini Braca, là. Il a 8 minutes. Moi, 8 minutes, je suis en train d'escalader le premier truc.
We have to do everything pretty much perfectly through the end of the game in order to be even close to competitive. And so, yeah, it's.
Je me demande, y a-tu de quoi qui peut
It's
passer
really
rapidement
fun
ici?
and really
Non, hein.
interesting
Tu
to
fais
run,
juste
but it's
marcher.
also
Puis c'est-
extremely competitive now. So.
Ah, puis c'est le
that's a
rêve
great
de.
part of this.
Ouais, non.
So let's talk about the categories a little
Espèce
bit.
de
So
rêve, c'est vrai.
the category that we're running today is any percent no pause buffer clips. The pause buffer clip was an exploit that we discovered early on in this game's existence that essentially allows Cal to pass through solid objects if he's moving quickly enough and you can cause enough lag in the game. The way that we used to do this was by having essentially a slower PC,
Je sais que c'était cool, c'était.
dashing toward a particular wall and doing like a flip, and then you pause the game, and if your PC is slow enough, then you pass through to the other side.
Ils ont découvert assez tôt dans les speedruns qu'il y a une façon de faire que si tu fais assez rapidement et que ton PC est shit, genre, il est mauvais, tu peux passer à travers certains murs qui te font passer justement le speedrun encore plus rapidement. Mais ça, c'est vraiment, vraiment glitché à fond, genre. Comme c'est un énorme exploit que eux ils utilisent pas dans les runs de ce genre-là. Voilà, c'est juste too much.
Because the game was hard, because that trick was hardware specific and required slower hardware, we decided to segregate it out and make it a separate category.
Ouais.
But since then, as a matter of fact, I believe it was you, Pinash, who discovered a way to do that exact same glitch on almost any hardware, or perhaps any hardware, using either Alt-Tab, and now we use F11 to change the
Ils ont réussi à le
resolution
faire
of the
pour
game.
n'importe quel PC, mais non.
If you do a dash into barriers
Imagine,
that
ils
are
doivent
thin
tellement
enough,
tester de
and you
choses
press F11
différentes
at
pour que ça
just
marche.
the
Oh
right
my God.
time, then you can pass through that barrier. And as a result of that,
Tout ça pourquoi?
some
Pour
parts of
être
the game
rapide,
open up
quoi, en
to
jeu.
you that didn't exist
C'est fou.
for the category that doesn't allow this particular trick. And so those are the first two categories. The first one being which also has
Matique avec
our-
les
because no one has discovered the
inquisiteurs.
trick. This is run
241.
just the 100%.
On est en cinématique encore. Comme je dis, le début est très cinématique heavy, comme on dit là. Donc, il peut rien faire à ce niveau-là. Mais là, on arrive dans le train, ça devrait être un peu plus intéressant selon moi. Là. Ah, surtout qu'il y a le sabre laser. Puis le sabre laser
Super
devrait.
late
Voilà, vous allez voir.
Uh-oh.
And so it's still trying to teach Panache how to block and move and strike and whatever, but he's going to do a trick right here that enables him to do a jump that is
Oh oui.
very, very high. It's called
Il est sur le train là. Donc si tu sautes puis que tu frises en même temps, ça te fait sauter super haut, genre.
a target
Bref.
lock jump, and there it is. So the way that that trick works, you have to lock onto an enemy.
Ah, faut que tu verrouilles un ennemi.
And then jump, and at the
sautes.
very peak of your jump,
Et au moment que
you
tu es
press
en haut du
the-
saut le plus
either
haut
the
possible,
block button
t'appuies
or
sur le
slow
bouton
button.
de.
That
de slow,
puts
là.
Cal into a loop
Oh my God, les
of
sauts!
jumping
Quoi?
and restarting his jump over and over and over again. It's a very precise trick. Panache just
Ouais, ça doit
got
être
it
très
twice in a
précis.
row like it was
Ça a
no
l'air
big
facile,
deal.
mais ça doit être
This takes
compliqué.
a ton of practice to do consistently. It's very, very difficult. That's a very long target lock jump there.
He's just nailing
He's
him.
nailing them. This is
Wow.
going great so
Ouais,
far.
il y réussit
really well
super
done.
bien.
And as a result of jumping onto those
Dude.
train cars instead of going through them,
Mais
he
pardon?
skipped several minutes of cuttescenes and tutorials.
Ouais, il y a
they
plein de
wanna teach
sections
you how to
tutoriels, puis là, il les a
block
toutes
and
skip.
how to whatever, think about things. It's much faster
Since the
to go on
train
top.
is just literally a straight line, so all we can really do to make this faster is just to skip all the little tutorial bits inside the train cars, because we already know how to do everything. And funnily enough,
Ah, là, il fait juste sauter direct en bas.
the game tells you you're able to sprint at this point in the train, even though it gives you the ability to sprint way back at the slide at the very start. So it's just, it's funny. You have to play the game for like 15 minutes before it even tells you.
And now here we get into a series of climbing sections which are all very janky because climbing works really best in the cardinal directions, up, down, left, right, and diagonals. And whenever we climb, we want to make sure that we're jumping anywhere that we can. And jumping is really iffy while you're climbing. Things can move away from you or...
La façon dont c'est programmé, disons que la façon dont tu grimpes,
or Cal won't quite
c'est fait pour que tu grimpes lentement, genre, dans les points cardinaux, comme haut, bas, côté. Mais lui, pour aller plus vite, il saute sans arrêt, puis ça peut chier souvent à cause de ça. Genre. Speedrun quand, toi, Bébou? Mec, soon, PM, bientôt, t'inquiète.
Jump in the direction that you expect him to jump.
En vrai, je serais chaud de faire
And
comme la
so,
première partie de braquage.
it's
Genre.
very
Voir
tough
qu'est-ce que ça fait.
to
On y arrive ou non.
build a precise,
Ouais, je sais, là.
repeatable climbing,
Avec peut-être le train, mais le train a l'air
technique that will
compliqué.
get you to
Le
the top
saut
of
qu'il
each
fait, là.
climb
Oh.
very precisely.
Yeah, I'm
You wanna
sure
make sure
you've
that you're not
noticed
getting-
that if you've played casually. I know I did.
Yeah, definitely. Climbing is super
Déjà 15
awkward.
minutes, mec. Il a presque fini le train.
Panache is being very careful to not get too close to the top of each section that he's climbing, because he wants to be able to jump onto the ledge, because that saves just like about a half second or so. Makes a big difference just like that.
Il
That was
gagne des
perfect.
secondes à sauter
Here he's going to
sur les
attempt to
bords,
do
sinon ça va
a almost frame
plus lentement se
perfect,
remonter soi-même. genre.
super jump. He
Got
got
it.
it.
No way.
Beautiful, beautiful super jump. We don't know
Imagine.
why that happens, but if you hit it at just the right frame, then Cal will do a jump all the way to the top of that grate.
Wow.
And now we're headed into the first trick that was ever named after our runner,
His
Panache.
signature skip.
This
Named
is a
after
beautiful
me.
skip. So he's jumping on top of this train car.
Yes, sir.
The game expects
tout à fait.
you to climb up and out of the hole that's on the train car
The
here
cutscene
to our right.
there.
But instead, we're just going to walk off the edge and fall
I was
through
playing
the
this
train.
game and I was just like, I wonder what happens if you jump off the edge. And then I jumped on the Discord and I was like, have you guys ever
mon
done
bras.
this? And then they're like, oh my god, like
Faut
what?
pas que je le lève.
Like,
Well, we didn't know that we thought this was a soft lock, and then Panache showed us that if you jump at just the right moment, and it's very tight, as a matter of fact, it is a very, very tight trick. If you don't jump at the right moment, it can be, oh, and he got it.
Attends, quoi? Ouah! Mais je suis désolé, mais il faut que je recule un peu là. Ça, mec,
On the train. And
c'est lui qui a
fall
découvert ça,
through the
ce
train.
qui paraît.
And I was just like, I wonder what happens if you jump off the edge. And then
Puis,
I jumped on the Discord
les
and I
gens
was like,
pensaient que
"You guys
justement,
ever
si t'arrives là, c'est
done
fini,
this?"
ta
And
run
then they're like, "Oh my
elle
God,
est morte,
like
genre.
what?"
Mais non, lui, il a découvert que si
Well,
tu
Well, we
sautes
didn't know that
à des moments
if you-
pré-
we thought this was a
précis,
soft lock,
parce que
and
sinon tu
then
meurs, genre.
Panache showed
Hop,
us
hop, il
that
saute à ces
if
moments-là
you
précis
jump
pour
at
pas mourir.
just the right
et il y
moment,
arrive,
and
genre.
it's very tight.
Et
It-
c'est super précis.
As a matter of fact, it is a very, very tight trick. If you don't jump at the right moment, it can
Wow.
be, oh, and he got it. Beautiful, beautiful.
continue.
Then you can void out
Insane.
and have to go back a solid 30 or 40 seconds. And somehow Panache
So
found
yeah,
this.
we jump into the cutscene
can-
trigger there because it's still there somehow, and it kind of goes
Oh.
into like an endless loop there of. But if you miss it,
C'est n'importe
there is a
quoi.
gap
C'est
and you
n'importe
fall.
quoi. Genre, à quel moment
Fall.
t'as assez pour
Yeah,
savoir
we
à-
have to restart that
où
time.
sauter dans le
Completely
vide?
soft-locked,
Yeah.
and you may as well, you have to reset. So there I
Right.
just set the game to Jedi Grandmaster because this sequence here is scripted and you cannot win or lose, and the fastest way to get past it is to lose. And Trilla, the second sister,
Tu peux pas gagner cette séquence contre Trilla. Donc ils viennent mettre le jeu en grand maître parce que c'est le plus rapide pour mourir.
will
Voilà.
kill us in 3 hits on Jedi Grandmaster.
Mourir pour
So-
passer cette
And that
cinématique là.
last trick that he just demonstrated, he can literally do it with his eyes closed. He just did that for us a few minutes ago, right before the run started, and we don't know how he does
It's actually a trick
Il
that
les a-
has
il a
really
fait les yeux
no
fermés.
visual cue. It kind of has a visual cue, but it's very. You have to get to that spot of the train at exactly the same time every time.
Voilà, là,
you
il se-
attempt
il se
to
laisse
do it.
mourir.
So it's just not a reliable visual cue. And instead, what we
Voilà.
usually do is rely on a time from the moment that we fall off the train.
Donc Cal c'est
But
flash.
Panache has such
Tout à
a
fait.
feel for it that he's able
Tu vois,
to
mec,
make
on est juste à 18 minutes, puis il y a déjà des tricks, des trucs et astuces qu'ils utilisent là, c'est n'importe quoi. Et on est juste au début, il a aucun pouvoir là. Imaginez quand il aura tous les pouvoirs.
And when
n'importe
I say
quoi.
that it's tight, I mean we're talking about between a tenth and a quarter second of precision with no visual or audio cue. So it's a very tough trick to do and brave to do in a marathon setting like this. And I'm really glad that he did
It's
because it's
free.
really
I
cool.
don't know what you're talking about. It's free.
Yeah, okay.
So Panache got killed by the second sister here in 3 hits. and saved and headed into the Mantis. You may have also played this game in Jedi Grandmaster, and you may have noticed that it took 5 hits for you to be killed by the second sister.
Wait, what?
If that's the case, it's because you had more than one save file. It was the second save file that you created. We don't know why this happened, but there's a glitch in the code where the second save file that you create has something like 30% additional health bar, which is fantastic if you're playing casually and terrible if you're trying to speedrun, because
What the fuck? C'est tellement OP.
we really want to get killed by the second sister.
Il y a un glitch dans le code.
Not
Genre,
five.
c'est même pas à cause du speedrun et tout. Non, non, c'est de base dans le jeu. La deuxième save que t'as 30% plus d'HP. Donc si t'es un grand maître et que t'essaies de survivre plus longtemps, genre, bah, ta deuxième sauvegarde, t'as 30% plus de points de vie.
And the difference
Va
between
savoir.
those 3 hits and 5 hits is probably about 2 seconds,
Yeah, it's about 2 or 3.
which tells you how much of a competitive planet this one is. Again, a brilliant.
C'est pour ça que j'arrive à faire la chauve-souris aussi rapidement, c'est ma deuxième sauvegarde,
run of that
tabarnak.
particular planet and a terrible but still potentially competitive run of that planet are separated by about 10 seconds. Maybe 15 at the most. If you're 15 seconds behind world record at the point that we're at now, you are probably restarting your run, which means a lot of cutscenes to watch over and over and over again.
C'est vrai que c'est beaucoup de cinématiques que tu dois te taper à chaque fois. Oh mon dieu. Non, moi, jamais je speedrun ce jeu au complet. Hein.
Oh yeah, we can quote them all word for word.
Je serais
Many
incapable.
hours of our lives.
Un jeu que tu peux skip les cinématiques? Ouais, avec plaisir. Mais ça, non, 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 non.
These a lot of
Speedrun.
and
Parce que tout ça, c'est juste l'histoire, on s'en fout.
cutscenes out of this game. So, you know, on one hand, yes, it would be really great if we could skip cutscenes. On the other hand, thank you for not giving us the ability to skip cutscenes.
At least we have something to do.
It's been a great catalyst for lots of discoveries and lots of necessitated inventions and new tech.
We've learned a lot because of that, that's for sure.
Ah, ok. Et ça leur a permis de découvrir plusieurs trucs et astuces dans les cinématiques à cause.
I just want to put on my poncho.
Friend of this amazing 6'10" human being, what better time for
Logano's the first
All right.
open world planet that we
Voyons voir.
visit in this
Voilà,
game.
là ça commence pour de vrai, c'est plus
It
autant
gives us
linéaire. Là, il y a
the
plusieurs
initial
chemins que tu peux prendre, on va
destination
voir
heading
quel chemin il
to
prend
this
exactement.
vault. But we're going to have to make a few stops along the way. The first and
Let's say
most
big
important
frère
thing is
pour
that
qu'il
we're going to
puisse.
have to pick up our
True.
sidekick BD, and then also we're going to have to get the ability to do wall run, and then finally we're going to have to unlock the planet of Dathomir. So those things are all on our checklist. They don't have to be done in any particular order, but it is important that we do all of them, or else we will face a soft lock.
Exact. Ça, c'est super important. Dans ce jeu, il y a plusieurs façons d'accéder à des lieux que tu peux, de ce que j'ai compris. Le problème, c'est que si tu vas chercher, on va dire, l'attraction de l'attirance de force, avant que tu fasses autre chose, ça va te coincer. Donc, il faut être sûr que tu aies fait certaines étapes avant d'aller en faire d'autres. Parce que si tu les fais pas, ça te bloque. La save, elle est finie, genre.
You do have to get BD before you go to the temple because it's required for him to
Le
scan
Yuzuki.
something that lets you play the cutscene that unlocks Zepho.
Oh my goodness, great point. I totally forgot about that. Yes.
But other than that, you can do pretty much any order you want.
Exactly right. So now we're sprinting. The very
Bon,
first thing that Panache is
doucement.
going to do is target an enemy that's hiding underground and use him to do his very first target lock jump here to get out of bounds.
Get the fuck out. Tu peux pas monter là avant. Bref.
Or into an area that he's not supposed to be yet. He's going to pick up this memory to get a little bit of experience points because we're going to need a couple of skills to move very quickly throughout the rest of the game. And he's headed directly over to the wall run area.
Il va chercher
If
le
you
wall run.
make these jumps just so, then you don't have to climb. That was very tough. It's very precise, both of those jumps. We come down into this little cove, and we're going to have to do another target
Man,
lock
ce saut
jump,
est OP. Pouvoir
perfect
passer au-dessus
in
comme
order
ça, là,
to
c'est
get
trop fort.
up above and fall into this hole. This hole is very
Wow.
precise, and if he lands it, oh, just barely missed it, but it was pretty good anyway.
Not my fault.
And now we're into now we're headed into the area where we're going to get the wall run ability.
Ouais.
If we were playing with
Putain, mais il y
pause
a déjà
buffer
wall
clips
run, genre.
allowed, then this would be the first place that a pause buffer clip would take place. In order to exit the memory early and rejoin the planet with the ability without having to watch the memory. So yes, so this part is just as it is casually.
Yeah, so this area here is actually above Bogano, and you gain the ability to wall run as soon as you enter that flashback. So what we would do in a pause buffer clip run is we would clip through that death plane below and fall all the way back down onto Bogano with the ability to wall run and skip this entire flashback
Donc,
sequence, which
Donc, c'est pas ce genre de
about a
run, mais
minute.
justement, quand je vous parlais, qui peut passer à travers certains murs.
So there
Oh,
are
là.
two main routes on Bogano. One is where you get BD
La
first.
salle
one
où
is
il
where
était
you get
avant.
wall run first. Panache does the wall
il a
run
fait son
first
wall run.
route, which, in my opinion, is a
C'est
little
au-dessus de
higher
Bogano.
risk, but it also
Donc, il
is
peut passer
slightly
à travers le
faster.
sol,
Both of them are still
puis tomber de
completely viable.
super haut
That's
pour
right.
arriver
So,
sur Bogano.
that wall run tutorial, that it
Comme
was
ça, t'as
done
pas à
as
taper
quickly as it possibly can be
le petit
done.
tutoriel. Genre.
The important
Il est
thing
même
that
pas 30
Panache
minutes,
did
puis il a déjà le
there
wall
was
run.
not go too fast, because as those walls are assembling themselves, you can actually wall run on a wall that is not totally assembled yet and fall down and have to go back to the beginning. And so patience is a virtue.
Oh, wow.
So here we're going to exit out of this hole in a way that was totally unintended by the developers, with a couple of well-placed target lock jumps. And again, those target lock jumps are extremely difficult and very tight, and so far Panache is just nailing them. Another target lock jump will get us out of bounds here, and we're going to use a target across this gap to jump onto some 3D geometry that we cannot see, and then all the way across this
Il y avait une
gap.
collision. Invisible.
And that was perfect. Perfect target lock
Ran out of
jump.
force.
So Panache ran out of force there, which is important and worth talking about, because the way that force power works in this game, you have an unlimited amount of force as long as no enemies have aggroed you. So if no enemies are attempting to attack you, they're not aware of you, you can use force indefinitely and forever. But as soon as an enemy has targeted you, then you have a very limited amount of force. You can upgrade the amount of force that you get in this game,
Mais
but
c'est
of
ça,
course,
genre. À quel moment?
that is slow, and we're not going to do it. So we just use the very minimum amount of force that is necessary. We optimize around when we think that we're going to be aggroed by an enemy, and make sure that we're only using enough force
Il est broken, c'est
that
sûr.
we're not going
Mais
to
ça,
run
c'est
out.
qu'en jouant, nous,
it
on
can be
passe ce
very
genre de
costly
truc.
and time
Mais quand tu vois les
consuming to have
speedrunners le
full
faire,
level
oh
force.
my god, que c'est
In this mode of the
brisé.
game, force does come back to you over time. In harder modes of the game, you actually have to earn force back, so changes things quite a bit.
So I should actually mention that Panache is using an invisible BD1 mod, mainly just to show off the puncher. So BD is actually still on his back.
Ok, BD1 est là, c'est juste qu'il a le mode où il le rend invisible. D'accord.
And doing that little cutscene with the stims is actually what unlocks BD to actually travel with you. And that's
Voilà,
the only
il a débloqué BD1 là.
thing we need to actually do. We don't have to meditate. All we need to do is unlock those stims.
Yeah, perfect, exactly. It's almost unfortunate that no one's going to see BD here today. The thing is that he's actually quite cute. He kind of rides around on your shoulder like a
Il va faire des roulades.
pirate's
Ouais,
parrot.
ça va plus vite faire des roulades pour monter.
There's a lot of
And
one-liners.
yeah, exactly. He's full of one-liners. So now we've finally reached the vault, and we're going to enter, I think, the next long set of cutscenes.
Serveur
Coming up here,
Discord.
might be the last long set
Le
of
speedrun et les
cutscenes.
viewers arrêtent
There's one more.
pas à trouver ses
It's
méthodes.
really long.
Ça reste que le viewer,
And-
il a dû tester
Exactly.
aussi, puis
Right.
tu sais,
oh yeah, so we do have a
Bref.
few
Got
more
about
cutscenes
10
at
minutes
this
and 20
point.
seconds here until control.
moi je trouve ça incroyable.
Right, right. So
Probably work some donations in during this
this is a
cutscene.
great idea, yeah.
Ouais,
Alright, we
cutscene,
have
donc là il y a
7
pas mal de blabla.
Old Jedi massively help the items that he to know at this very moment.
You,
Okay.
when you play this game, when you play,
It was about because I haven't watched that cutscene in at least a year.
yeah, I remember what it's about, but I don't know if we want to spoil it for people, because it's for casuals, it's worth seeing.
Yeah, this
You
game
know,
makes no sense. There's no story.
Yeah, when you play this game casually, it's totally different from what we're doing
Yeah.
today. So, but But yeah, Seer is going to be kind of our
Tout un
mentor
saut.
character. She's going to teach us how to regain our connection to the Force and guide us to go get our MacGuffin.
Attends, mais quoi?
Panache here has attempted to kill this Ogdo in order to gain its experience points because we
XP.
took a route that doesn't quite give us enough experience points to buy the skills that we're going to need.
On va acheter
He's now
des,
taking- we need to
des
leave
habiletés plus tard.
Bogano with 2 skill points, and it gives you 1 when you first land. So all we need is 1 more.
That's right. So typically the game is trying to encourage you. Beautiful.
Nice,
sick
well done.
jump.
That jump is really
That's
precise.
very tough. And it's swag. It's so swag. It saves like a quarter second, but it's so good. Really nicely done. So the game doesn't just encourage you, it nearly forces you to purchase a skill before leaving the planet. In fact, it is so expected that you're going to purchase skills before leaving this planet that if you don't purchase a skill before leaving the planet, then you avoid a cutscene with Seer, and you can purchase that skill then on the Mantis once you arrive there while the next planet is loading. So that's a perfect opportunity for us to purchase it. It was important for Panache to take the route that he just did because it unlocked the planet of Dathomir. Unfortunately, that planet is not useful for us yet, but it will be eventually. We're going to get there. And when we do, we're going to skip all of it.
Ah oui, non, mais ça, je comprends, ça, je le sais.
Yeah, it's like
Bien
maybe
sûr, c'est pas juste une
play
personne qui
for
trouve
12
ça,
minutes,
mais...
and most of that's
Hey, it's hello there.
cutscenes.
Exactly.
We don't go to the swamp at all.
Il y a 200 par... J'ai trouvé quelque chose par hasard. Avec le force jump
this jump
glitch.
here is
Wow.
actually quite precise, and he got it perfectly. The
Il est
best that
mec.
you can do, there's a minor stumble, and we got good RNG for Seer here. So this means that Cal won't be slowed down too much on his way up the ramp. Beautifully done. That was great. And now we're headed off to the next planet, which is Zepho.
Oh
Sure, it's
putain,
not
Zepho.
Dathomir.
We could go to Dathomir if
Wanna
you
go to
like.
Dathomir?
You want to go to Dathomir?
Ouais,
Yes,
mais
you
attends, la
wanna
map
go to
était
Dathomir.
super buggée.
That's
Red
direct
sunlight
dialogue out
cannot
of
be
the
good
game.
for your
I want to
skin.
go to Cheek.
So while the next
I
planet...
kind of just want to go to Nair.
While the next planet is loading, Panache is going to rest in this meditation circle where he will purchase his first 2 skills. Typically, if you do not rest on the planet and purchase your skills there, then you would think that you are soft locked because there's no button to purchase the skills on this screen. But if you know exactly where the button is placed, then you can move your mouse to that location and click there, and it will activate the ability to buy your skills. So that's how you avoid that soft lock.
Normalement, il serait bloqué en achetant ces points-là, en faisant ça. Parce qu'il est pas supposé acheter les points à ce moment-là, genre. Mais que, vu qu'il sait où sont les boutons, même s'ils sont pas là, il les achète quand même, les
Something
pouvoirs.
that we thought for the longest time was just a soft lock and that there was no way to avoid it. And so we were resting on the planet in order to avoid that soft lock. But turns out it's totally not necessary.
So the 2 skills that he just bought are overhead slash and dash strike. So improved dash strike, which is the next skill we're gonna buy, is the fastest form of horizontal movement in the game, and chaining dash strikes is not much faster than that.
Yeah.
Besides like a really crazy launch.
Il vient d'avoir le dash, donc c'est pour aller plus vite, mais c'est sa version améliorée
And
qui est
we
meilleure
can't-
pour aller
we
plus
could
rapidement.
grind for 1 more skill point on Bogano to afford improved dash strike, but that would take way too much time. So just getting regular dash strike at this point is a good balance of time and actually getting XP. So we play the first 2/3 of Zepho with regular dash strike chaining, and we eventually buy
Artemis.
improved dash.
Mathieu,
But yeah,
bonsoir.
we don't even need overhead slash. We just have to buy it in order to access dash strike.
That's
Tiens,
right.
hey.
Yeah, so
40 minutes, puis il a déjà fini Bogano.
the regular dash versus the improved dash dash is essentially twice as far in the same amount of time. So the way that the game expects you to move when you do a dash, there's a couple of different ways that you can control Cal while he's dashing. But the normal expected movement is that you will dash forward and swipe your lightsaber upward, freezing Cal in position for about a quarter second. The way that we move Cal, if we are moving optimally, is by interrupting that movement with another dash at the exact moment that Cal's feet touch the ground at the end of his dash, allowing
tout
us
à
to
fait.
interrupt and cancel one dash with another. That's called dash chaining.
Dash
And
check.
so that's the way that we're going to try
Oh
to
my
move
God.
as much as we
Ça, là, quand il fait ça, s'il réappuie, s'il veut refaire un autre, que ça soit le plus rapide, parce que sinon il va donner un coup de sabre laser, genre à la fin. S'il réappuie sur le bouton au bon moment précis, ça va annuler l'animation, puis il peut juste les enchaîner.
possibly can
Là,
whenever
regardez.
we're on
Oh
front
my
ground, and
God.
here Panache is just doing a great job. Yes, it's very tough to chain these dashes
Have you
together.
menued yet?
He did. And he's
Okay.
headed over to a spot that you wouldn't typically expect him to go if you're familiar with this game casually, and that's because he's going to exploit another glitch that is absolutely
Bon.
mind-bending.
Oh no.
And one of the newest, biggest time saves that we have in this route. It turns out that if you dash into a corner just so, that's at a very particular height, and you start to swipe your lightsaber upward, if you jump during that swipe and you can grab a ledge that's just above Cal's
Il y a la
head,
misère. Come
Cal
on,
will put his
t'es capable.
hands above the ledge and have to adjust them downward, and he will
Il va
get
mourir.
a launch that is very difficult to predict, but with some precise setups, we can get Cal to launch to places that we absolutely
Oh, ça a l'air
should never
complet.
be.
Wow!
And that's one of those places. Unfortunately, there's a lot of RNG with this trick.
Not where we're trying
so-
to go.
He got a pretty short variant of that launch, but when he actually gets it, he will launch over halfway across the map and end up
c'était même pas
basically
bon?
at the entrance to the tomb.
Right.
Like
C'était même pas
4 or
bon?
5 minutes before we're actually supposed to be able
Quoi?
to get there.
I can feel it in my
That
bones.
feels great.
That
What a
looks
launch.
Attends, mais
good.
pardon?
And he paused the
And he
game
got
to load in the area that he was headed to and paused it again to load in the rest of the map. Perfectly done. Extrememely difficult
Round of
trick. Well
applause.
done.
Mais pardon, excusez, je dois revoir. Je dois. Il doit faire pause à des moments parce que sinon la map ne load pas. Elle ne charge pas. Sinon ça il tombe dans le vide.
Actually supposed to be able to get
Feel it.
there.
I can feel it in my
That
bones.
feels great.
Voilà, il a fait pause, ça
What a
charge.
launch.
Really good.
Oh, and he paused the
And he
game
got
to load in the area that
Il
he was headed
recharge,
to and
ça load
paused
la
it
map.
again to load in the rest of the map. Perfectly done. Extremely
Incroyable.
difficult trick. Well
Applause.
done. Well done.
That's an
beat the
extremely
game.
reset heavy trick.
Well done. Big round of applause. If you're not already clapping at home, please clap.
Dude,
That
insane.
was excellent. Very difficult
Oh,
trick.
j'adore ce jeu.
Panache
Ok,
was,
là ça devient
absolutely
vraiment
dedicated
intéressant.
to making that work for this AGDQ run, and I'm so
If
glad that
you
it did for him. That was great.
Ouais.
Yeah, all you need to do is photo mode, and if you're photo moding or pausing the game, everything will still load in normally, all the collision
Ah, ça a l'air
textures.
compliqué.
So if you photo mode at just the right time above that slide, you can actually get some of the invisible walls to load in, and they kind of corral you and slow you down and land you just on top of the slide.
Ça
And
casse
then
la
he
vitesse.
does the
Ça
exact
casse la
same
vitesse
trick
ici.
to
Oui,
get
oui.
the room that he's in now to load in, and we can basically get
L'air,
to
la
the tomb
boucle, le
much
jeu.
faster.
Yeah,
Ça
so
fait penser au
now
glitch de
we're
Elden
just
Ring.
running around.
Ouais, mec.
We are trying to do a falling dash
Ouais, ouais.
off of this ledge and use the wind to carry us up onto a ledge, invisible ledge
Voilà,
up
il
here,
est
which we
bien
just
joué.
did.
Ah oui, mais
Thank you,
marcher
blessed
sur le toit de la map,
friends.
tout à fait.
Got it.
That's also a very difficult trick to reliably do over and over again, which puts
Imaginez
us up
réussir
now
ça
in front of
premier coup à
the
chaque fois.
tomb that we are headed to.
Et le jump,
which is
ça.
perfect. And he's going to do one more launch after killing this goat.
L'autre.
Getting dash strike opens up a lot of tricks in this run for
Ouais,
us.
j'ai l'impression
and
que ce
lets us
pouvoir-là,
do
là-
crazy movement things that are we don't really know the full
launch.
potential yet. We're
Mais
still
tout à fait.
discovering new dash related optimizations every day, almost.
And so now he's headed into the elevator for the temple, coming from a direction that the game absolutely did not expect. So well done, well done.
Ouais, c'est ça, il est dans
getting the
l'ascenseur.
elevator down.
What?
So far, so good. This run is just
Il est rendu
going
dans
absolutely
l'ascenseur?
fantastically. One of the
Il est
things that
passé
he
par
was
en haut,
doing
genre.
when
Incroyable.
trying to
Parce que sinon
ride
ça serait
that
fermé,
jet
genre.
of air
Il a pas fait le
upward
reste.
is dash into that air current. And dashing is kind of a peculiar thing in this game because it will look for a ledge, and if Cal is going to cross over that ledge, then it stops Cal before he would go off of it.
Okay.
So if you dash into anything that the game considers to be a ledge, and sometimes it's wrong about that, it could be any like raised 3D geometry at all, then Cal will stop there. However, if you start a dash as Cal is taking a step off of a ledge, and you can only do it for the first step, you get maybe 10 frames or so that you're able to do this dash. You can dash forward through the air, downward, and in a very long distance, which gets you to places that you otherwise absolutely could never reach.
Oh. Alors. Pour ceux qui n'ont pas compris, quand il fait le dash, le jeu va regarder si tu arrives au bord d'un précipice. Tire-bord, là, par exemple. Et si ici tu arrives à un bord, justement, il va te stop pour pas que tu tombes. Donc, même si tu es à la moitié ou aux 3/4 du saut, il va t'arrêter là pour pas que tu tombes. Sauf que si tu le fais juste si tu le fais au bord d'un truc, là, ça peut te propulser vraiment très loin. Vers le bas, vers le haut, bref.
It's kind of not just a long jump, but it's also a low long jump, which allows us to avoid bonking our heads on the ceiling, which would knock us into a void out. And so that was
Very useful tech.
very useful,
for
very tough to learn.
Et
too.
puis ici.
just about anything.
Ah, voilà, regardez, là, il a fait un
There-
saut,
oh,
puis il a
beautiful.
propulsé.
Tricky jump.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Very high risk, low reward jump. He's determined. He was
Did not
determined
have
to
to
get
do
that
that
one.
at all.
Second time save.
It was just showing
Saves
off.
about a half a second.
Just showing
And if you mess it up, it loses about 15 seconds. So it's very swag.
J'ai mis la prendre le run
Here
avant de
he's going
sortir,
to
avant la
make
sortie
short
de
work of a
Survivor.
puzzle that I think probably
T'es drôle, toi.
stumped a lot of casual players for quite a long time.
I missed
And he
it.
did it
I
perfectly.
missed it.
Oh, he missed it! He missed the jump.
Oh, the rhythm.
Oh no!
Okay.
Oh, we got it.
Oh, he got it second try. That's actually really it's
Reset.
even harder to do it second try.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna go totally the unexpected way to go
can
completely
actually-
out of bounds and get force push, the ability to do
Go
force push
around that.
early.
Ouais, là, il va chercher la force de pousser, ouais.
We just need to go faster than this. The way the game gives us is just too slow.
All right, and here we're
Oh, no.
going into the
Wait,
room where
what?
we would be on the other side of the wall from force push. This is the Ramos skip, but it has
Ouais,
been
c'est ça, attends.
modified by Pinash.
Normalement, t'es de l'autre côté du mur quand t'arrives pour la force de pousser, tu sais, avec le vent qui te frappe et tout. What the fuck? Oh, j'ai un téléphone.
If you do a dash into just the right place, you get stuck in the wall. You can kind of jump through that wall
Oh,
if you
unlucky.
do it very precisely. And let's see if he gets it second
This
try.
wall is really finicky.
It's extremely finicky. You can spend 3, 4, 5 minutes trying to get through this wall. Sometimes it works first try, but that is a total lottery. And
Ok, pardon.
is he through?
Very good. Very
Yes,
nice.
he's
very
through.
nice. He's through.
Beautiful, beautiful pass
Il vient de passer à travers le mur, là? Attends,
through that
parce que
wall.
j'ai pas vu, moi.
Get through this wall. Sometimes it works first try, but that is a total lottery. And
Waouh, il vient de passer à travers
Is
le
he
mur.
through?
Very
Ok.
good. Very
Yes,
nice.
he's
very
through.
nice. He's through.
Beautiful, beautiful pass through that wall. And now we're going back to the memory where we will unlock the ability to do force push. Panache is turning up the frames per second back
Ouais,
to
voilà.
the
Ça, je
maximum,
parlais.
which will allow him to do better target lock jumps.
Il va plus vite que la
Essentially,
map.
the faster your frames per second are, the higher your target lock jumps will go. It's a strange correlation that we've discovered.
as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's one more launch on the way out of this tomb
Is
that
also-
basically requires max FPS.
That's right, that's correct.
Ok, c'est vrai.
Yeah, so we're going to do one more launch there too. The frames per second target lock jump unfortunately makes the game quite difficult to play at a competitive level for console players because if you do not have
Plus t'as de frame rates, donc plus t'as justement de FPS, plus tes sauts avec le truc de slow, plus ils vont aller haut, genre. Donc théoriquement, plus t'es pay to win, plus tu peux faire un meilleur speedrun.
Totally prevent you from
The game
doing
behaves completely differently.
Yeah, exactly. You won't be able to do target
Je
lock
savais que
jumps
Jedi
almost at
Fallen
all.
Order était un
Your
pay
target
to win
lock
comme
jumps will be
BattlefrontFR.
low,
Tabarnak.
they'll be unreliable.
Esti.
Even
Encore.
if you do them the exact same way every single time, you will still not get reliable target lock jumps. Maybe 1 in 3, 1 in 5 target lock jumps will go the way.
Ça
that
va
you
nous
expect
suivre
them
sur
to.
tous les jeux.
And that can be a major time loss, especially when you're going up against somebody like trying to compete for
Quelle
the world
honte.
record with Pinash, who gets it every single time first try. So we just unlocked the planet of Kashyyyk.
Ok, ils
Now
sont
we
pas les
have the
couilles du
ability to
dude.
push, and we are headed out of this temple. There's a big puzzle here, and there's more than one way for us
Ouais,
to
y a plein
choose
de
our way
puzzles
out of
ici,
it,
genre y a
but
plein de
the way that
casse-têtes
we're
à
going
faire.
to
We don't
take-
like the puzzle.
Yeah, puzzles are unnecessary. No, thank you. Instead,
Okay,
we're going to
no,
kill this
that's the
2
one
guardian
shot.
so that he's not aggroed
The
against
last
us.
little bit of XP.
Yeah, and also for XP, exactly. So
Woo!
double
Ah ouais!
purpose there.
Second
comment
try,
passer
that was
au-dessus de la...
Nicely
Wow.
done.
Couldn't ask for a
Wow!
better launch than
Oh
that.
my goodness.
Didn't have time to explain it.
I didn't.
But it's very similar to the launch we just did to get all the way across the map, except it's more vertical. It doesn't actually let you clip through the wall.
Exactly.
And basically just get back up to the elevator and get
C'est
out.
insane, il a skip tous les casse-têtes. Il y en a plein de casse-têtes en bas là.
Soft locked into the wall, and then you have to exit, restart, and you have to redo a big section of Zepho. But it's not so bad. But the way that Panache just did that was absolutely perfect. Well done, man.
Thank you.
One more thing to note about that launch, you might think that you might just land straight inside the elevator, and you might think that's a good idea, but if you try it, you will find that the orb is not actually freed up. It won't actually be pushable until you push that little broken piece of metal, and you can only do that from the outside.
Right.
So you have to land outside of the elevator.
Vous savez comment il est atterri à l'extérieur de l'ascenseur au lieu d'atterrir dans l'ascenseur directement? Il était atterri dans l'ascenseur, la petite boule qui pousse pour faire démarrer l'ascenseur aurait pas pu la pousser. C'est bloqué en fait. Donc faut que quand tu es propulsé dans les airs, faut que tu atterrisses à l'extérieur de l'ascenseur pour que tu frappes le petit truc de métal.
Push that broken piece of metal, then push the ball.
Yep.
Very strange decision, but it's what we got to do.
Lots of runs have ended to that. If you land inside of the elevator, the ball cannot be pushed. That's right. So you have to land outside
You
of the
can
elevator.
PBC out.
Oh,
You just have to change categories really
that's
quick.
right. Yeah. Your run
Je
is
prends vos
no
paris.
longer
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'il va faire
competitive,
un
really,
seul
because you
boss
didn't take the wall run PBC, so
dans le jeu?
pretty
Oui, il va
much
toutes les skip.
So Panache just learned improved
Moi, je
dash
dis qu'il
strike, which
il va
is
toutes les
about
skip.
2 or 3 times farther than normal dash, and is way better for horizontal movement. And we got everything we need to here on Zepho. We got push.
Ah
we got
ouais,
the
le
sheep,
dash
now we
avec
just need to get the
la
heck
poussée de
out.
vent.
Right, so we're finding the fastest way out of Zepho right now, and we're going to take a route that is relatively new, maybe a month or 2 old, to get back to the Mantis, which is our spaceship, in order to leave the planet.
Il en fait 2, 3.
When we get there,
Ah, moi, je dis qu'il en
though,
fait 0.
there will
Là, je parle des
be
gros boss là.
an ATST waiting for us. This
Ah
is very
ouais.
difficult.
Ok.
Nicely done.
Nice,
Nicely done.
nice falling dash.
Very nicely done falling dash. It's very precise and quite difficult.
When there's enemies everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. When you have a limited amount of force,
En train de
because you're
remonter
aggroed,
la
you only
pente,
have
genre.
so many tries to do it. There's a
Ah, il
rocket
va
trooper.
remonter,
Rocket
c'est ça,
troopers
ok.
are very distracting and annoying because rocket troopers can take you off of your feet
T'as plus de
very
force.
easily. So now Panache has to open this door, but it takes a second, and oh, thank goodness he got the door open. It's quite tough.
It's very easy for enemies to just start wailing on you, and you can get stuck there for 30 plus seconds because you just can't get the door opening through, and they'll just keep hitting you over and over again.
Les ennemis peuvent te frapper sans arrêt, puis t'arrives pas à ouvrir la porte.
So, you may have noticed that room was extremely dark. The game expects you to hold block in order to illuminate the
Oui.
room with your lightsaber
Plus.
held up, but we know where we're going, so that's not necessary.
We already know where to go.
Instead, Panache takes a direct route through
Eh
without
oui.
blocking at all,
voilà.
and does a
Il est
few
rendu en
very
mantis, quoi.
precise target lock jumps in order to
Magnifique.
skip the entirety of the Zepho village.
Non, en vrai,
now
à
we're
date, il a
headed
pas
back,
fait
and
tant
we're
d'erreurs. Il en a fait
near
quelques-unes, genre
the
surtout quand il faisait le
ATST.
gros saut tantôt, mais
And it's time for the
C'est
only
pas si pire,
real
genre.
fight of the game.
True. It's funny, we have an all boss
Oh,
category, and just
un
regular
vrai fight.
80% is a no boss category because there's actually a PBC you can do into the Mantis that skips this fight and the almost 3-minute cutscene after it.
That's right, yeah.
So Panache has very clean form here on this fight, avoiding all those bombs, getting in some
He
nice
dropped the
damage.
one bomb.
Overhead slash story mode ATSTs aren't that bad. They aren't much of a problem, but
Voilà,
they
ça
can
c'est
be
fait.
annoying when they drop lots of bombs and the shock mines. So
That was about
yeah, it's
as
a
good
very
as it
clean
gets.
fight.
That
Là,
was
c'était-
within maybe a
c'était
second
correct.
or two of a perfect fight with the ATST. A lot of that is RNG heavy, but Panache was
le
very
skip, c'est
careful
sûr, ou alors
to
peut-être certain. Mais c'est ça, c'est que tu dois
manipulate
tu dois être
the
très
ATST
précis.
by
C'est
forcing
jamais,
him
c'est
to
jamais
take steps
100% certain.
backwards, slowing him at a particular time. Then he knew that the ATST
Incroyable,
was
ouais.
going to drop bombs at a very specific time in that sequence. So he was able to set that all up exactly the way that he wanted it to go down so that he could strike him the exact number of times that it would take to knock him down. And then he has to kill the commander inside in order to open the door to enter the Mantis and watch this cutscene, which might be another good opportunity to read donations.
Sure. Run.
Merci.
Love you.
M'en fous.
By Respawn put out a patch on May 4th, which actually added some really cool new features, including the ability to do practice fights at meditation pads when you're in New Game Plus against any enemy that you want, including, you know, bosses and Trilla and even yourself if you want to, which is pretty neat. But one of the things that they did do in that patch was remove the ability to cancel movements with blocks, because anytime that you press the block button, now Cal is very committed to blocking. He holds up his lightsaber for a solid 1.5 or 2 seconds or so. In the process of fixing that glitch that we really liked, they caused another glitch, which was really interesting and really raised our eyebrows. And we didn't know what to make of it for a while, but it's been around now for a bit, and we are pretty sure that it's going to be in the run ongoing. And we've learned now to optimize around it, and it's kind of cool. And we're going to show that off starting on Kashyyyk, which is where we're headed now. And essentially what it allows us to do is cancel our jump ability. And we will show that off in a minute, and I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail then. But it totally changed the run. And ever since...
What? En tout cas, Respawn dans un de leurs dernières mises à jour, ils ont réglé un problème avec quand tu bloques. Ce qui les a fait chier parce que ça leur permettait de faire des trucs de speedrun. Mais ça a créé un autre bug qui fait en sorte que ça peut annuler ton saut. Et à ce qui paraît, ça aide beaucoup sur Kashyyyk. Quoi? Puis à ce qui paraît, ça a fait en sorte qu'avant les runs étaient de 3 heures, et grâce à ce bug, les runs sont rendus de 1h30 environ.
13 minutes. So, big difference that patch made, and hopefully the next one still keeps that glitch that we are so reliant upon, but maybe also gives us skippable cutscenes. That would be great.
Talk about the terrarium that we've been utilizing.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, great point. So we haven't talked about the terrarium yet. So on the Mantis, the pilot of the Mantis is Grease, and he keeps a terrarium of.
Oh, il y a un aquarium de plantes dans le Mantis. Qu'est-ce que ça fait?
Essentially, whenever you are on the Mantis traveling from one planet to another, it will start a kind of mini cutscene where Grease and Seer will have a chit-chat about whatever. There's some 40 or 45 different little chit-chats that they have, and we've timed them all and figured out exactly which ones are long and which ones are short. And it turns out that now with the current route that we have, there are enough uses of the terrarium where we can walk up to it, activate the terrarium while Grease is talking to Seer. It interrupts their conversation and then allows you to essentially sit in the co-pilot seat the moment that the next planet is loaded. So instead of listening to their conversation about, you know, the wear and tear that's been put on the Mantis,
quand tu interagis avec le terrarium derrière, ça skip le fait que Grease et Ceres sont en train de parler, donc tu peux juste t'asseoir directement, puis bam, t'atterris sur la planète. Il gagne plein de temps, parce que normalement, il parle longtemps. Genre. Intéressant.
This saves quite a lot of time, especially added up over the course of the entire run. What also will save a lot of time is the various places in which we exit and reload the game. So in most cutscenes, if you exit and reload before the cutscene has completed, then the game will put you back into the game at the start of that cutscene. But this place here, as soon as we see that save logo on the bottom right-hand corner, Pinash exits out and then restarts the game, and that skips the next mini cutscene and also loads Cal in the water at half the distance to his target that he would typically be.
Oh ouais, wow. Donc là, il est retourné dans le menu. Parce que ça skip la cinématique. Et ça lui met comme à la moitié du chemin proche de l'objectif. Normalement, il est beaucoup plus loin derrière. Genre. Nice.
Yep, there's a.
Il a 1 heure et il est
list
déjà
of
sur Kashyyyk, by the way.
cutscenes, and
hein.
most of them are on
Il a fini Zepho. Ben, une partie de Zepho.
where you can do this, you can save quit and actually load in at the end of the cutscene. And coming up here on this AT-AT, climbing on moving objects in this game is kind of janky, and he really wants to be careful here because it's really easy to just mistime a jump while the leg is moving or something and cause Cal to fall off. And there's very precise jumps that he needs to do here. He tries not to do too many jumps because you just really want to be careful with these jumps. And coming up here, there is one little optimization that we can do where if you jump at the end of this little patch of vines, you can skip a little stumble animation. It looks like he did it perfectly.
Well done.
And it's where Cal would usually get
Skip
shot by a
animation.
laser and he would stumble for about a second or two.
J'avais oublié.
And he managed to skip that. Very well done.
There's only a few pixels where you can actually make that jump to skip that laser blast that typically hits the side of the AT-AT. And Vesper's absolutely right about how complicated that climbing section can be. You know, part of the problem here is that it's not even that it's precise. It's not even that it would be Panash's fault if he fell in. It's that that AT-AT is walking forward, and as it walks forward, it can just step away from you as you're jumping through your climbs. And so it's just possible to do everything perfectly and still just whiff and just land back in the drink.
Sauter en montant, en grimpant, c'est pas une bonne idée sur des objets qui bougent. Parce que ça peut s'éloigner de toi. Puis tu tombes en bas.
That's right, I actually forgot about that combat section.
So, if you blinked, you might have missed it.
Yeah, he made very short work of those 3 stormtroopers. And so now he's piloting this AT-AT. It's such a cool part of this game to play casually. I really loved this. You know, the first time that I played this, I was just so blown away by it.
Ça, c'était cool la première fois, je
I
me
was
souviens.
so excited to do this. But
vraiment
now,
nice.
as a speedrunner, we kind of see it as like almost a cutscene because we're very much on rails. Yeah, it's an auto-scroller. There's not that much to do. We have to blow up that other AT-AT. Pretty much everything that Panache does from here until we get to the landing pad is totally optional. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. But because he gets bored and he has ADD, he's going to kill everyone that he sees.
Makes it faster, I swear.
And destroy those bridges, I'm sure, and also that other walker over there. So once we get to the landing platform, our goal is to get the ship that is currently on the landing platform into the air as quickly as we possibly can. The trigger that causes the ship to take off is blowing up the platform. The trigger for blowing up the platform is blowing up one of these red barrels, and the red barrel that it is randomly selected, and that was awesome that he got it very early. Perfect. And now it's going to take maybe 5 or 10 seconds for that aircraft to take off.
Il a gagné 5 secondes parce qu'il y a eu un bon...
He found the barrel. It could
tiré sur le conteneur rouge au bon moment, quoi.
30 or 40 barrels on the ground there that you have to shoot all of them until you find the one that actually causes this ship to take off, and then he's got to make the ship blow up 3 times, and he's already got 1, if I'm not mistaken. My stream glitched out for a sec.
If Respawn is still watching, could we get some insight as to what actually makes the platform blow up and what determines the barrels and the triggers and whatnot?
We have a lot of theories, but we're very superstitious about it. We hold our breath. We try to blindfold ourselves. We shoot barrels in clockwise order only. Wait.
We blink 3 times. We spin around in our chair.
That's right. So yeah, we haven't, we've tried actually to look at memory and see if we can figure out what exactly it is that triggers that to happen, and have not figured it out yet. So,
je pense que les mêmes longs. Voilà. Oh my god. Ok.
Probably the hardest planet in the run.
Overall.
Zepho is also difficult, but this is...
It's the longest split.
À ce qui paraît, Kashyyyk, c'est une des parties les plus difficiles du speedrun.
The run.
Oui, on voit.
By far. Yes. And there's a lot of little skips. It's really easy for your time loss to snowball.
Il y a beaucoup de skips, mais ils sont difficiles à avoir.
One BD upgrade that we need to get. It's overcharge. And we only need it for 2 things. And we actually know how to skip those 2 things, but it's slower than just getting overcharged. So we just do it.
That's right. So overcharge allows BD to activate Imperial tech. It'll allow us to do things like lower bridges and activate like spinny things on walls and stuff like that. So we're going to give him that upgrade here, and then Panache is going to walk through this spider web in order to spawn a spider that he can then use as a target
il y a les
to
araignées.
target lock jump out of this room. Perfectly done again. Another beautiful target lock jump. And
Coming up here is easily one of the most precise tricks in the whole run.
oh yes, sure. This is very difficult. This is the saw skip is what we're talking about. That's BD opening that, by the way. You can't see him there because we've
Trust us.
deleted him.
Trust us. He's there. I promise.
That's great.
So Saw skip, there's about a minute-long cutscene where Saw explains to you that they have
Ouh, ok. Il y a une grosse cinématique qui arrive, il va la skip. Comment il va y arriver?
Wookiees trapped and enslaved working for them to refine a powerful sap compound, as you would say. And there's about a minute-long cutscene where he tells you to free the Wookiees, and we're going to skip that by doing a very precise set of jumps. And Panache got it first try.
Waouh! Incroyable! Attends, mais quoi?
They have Wookiees trapped and enslaved working for them to refine a powerful sap compound, as you would say. And there's about a minute-long cutscene where he tells you to free the Wookiees, and we're going to skip that by doing a very precise set of jumps. And Panache got it first try.
Incroyable.
That is literally one of the hardest tricks in this run.
Ça, c'est, à ce
And
qui
he
paraît,
just
c'est un
nailed
des
it first
trucs les plus difficiles à faire de tout, genre.
try.
Il l'a eu du premier
the
coup.
game really doesn't want you to do that. He jumps to the right and then does another jump straight forward to get over that railing and just barely miss the cutscene trigger, and then does a well-timed dash flip to go
Ça,
through
c'est
that
cool.
NPC.
Ah, ouais, ça doit être super précis parce que tu dois être un tout petit peu sur le côté, ça active la cinématique, c'est sûr.
That's such a difficult trick and really, really well done there. So now we're going to jump immediately out of bounds by going on top of this corridor.
Mais oui.
Yeah, that was perfectly done. One more target lock jump. There we go, and now we're on top. And we're going to go into a room that was kind of created for ambiance. There's some invisible stormtroopers fighting some invisible rebels or Wookiees or who knows what. And Panache is going to do a very precise
What the fuck?
dash and jump
Ooh.
into
We got it.
Oh my goodness.
His computer is so good that area loads way too fast for him to get through usually, and he managed to nail it. Usually you'd have to do a very precise falling dash to get through that room after the walls have loaded in.
Wow,
He managed to get
okay.
through before it even loaded, which is very
Ah,
tough.
c'est
It's
cool.
extremely difficult. It's a very difficult trick and lots of runs.
Don't forget this, safety safe.
Yeah, safety safe, safety safe, safety safe.
Fine.
I mean,
Okay.
So
Il sauvegarde
we're taking
juste pour être
safety safe
sûr.
here because the next major skip that he's going to do, actually there's the next major skip after the next major skip that he's about to do
No faith.
is punishingly
A few
bad
major
if
skips
he
from now.
somehow ends up voiding out or dying.
Okay, il passe
So
au-dessus de
he
ça.
does another target lock jump to get on top of this platform, and now the longest target lock jump in the game. He's going to jump across a huge gap. Oops. Stepped once too many times off the ledge.
it's really easy to
Very-
accidentally walk off the edge of the ground.
Very tough to find the spot.
Now that Trooper's in the spot,
In the spawn. He hasn't been in this spawn in a long time.
he's throwing bows.
All right. Stormtrooper, we gotta
Oh.
go.
Nice jump. Nice jump.
Nice,
Nails.
Well
nice.
done. Well
Sachant
done.
qu'il
Nails
était
recovery.
à l'endroit où il devait sauter, le
Okay,
connard.
so
là.
now he's here so fast that this area is not quite loaded yet, but it loaded in now, and we're going to use this firefly thing to do a target lock jump and get out of bounds again. We're going to get back on top of that
Il
ceiling.
sort de la map. Mais. Oh,
Yeah,
Kashi.
nicely done.
All right, and here we're coming
c'est
up
n'importe
to
quoi, cette
what we
planète.
call barrier skip. And the first part of this involves opening a shortcut door for reasons that we will explain later. And he's actually going to try to do a little optimization where he misses a loading trigger on the slide that's coming up here. And if he does that, it'll actually remove some geometry later on in the level that'll allow him to get to where we need to go a little bit sooner. And it looks like
Wow.
he nailed
Perfect.
the skip on that loading trigger.
And for the record,
So if we're doing a PBC, all right, go ahead.
he did intentionally void out that first time. That first void out allowed him to load the part that
Il est mort exprès pour load une nouvelle partie de la map pour ensuite atterrir sur la sled. Comme ça, plus tard, il y a des géographies qui seront pas là pour le bloquer. Voilà.
he's in
C'est
now.
con. Genre,
But he was
il prévoit des trucs d'avance. genre.
very careful to
Yeah.
avoid another loading trigger that would have loaded.
Nails the
Yeah, that was
TLJ.
perfect.
So now we're going all the way
oui.
out of bounds underneath
oui.
the entire map. And we're basically getting
Ah, là, il est loin.
to a loading trigger that will load in the tunnel after the Shadowlands. And the only reason we're doing this is because there is an invisible wall that checks if you have powered zipline upgrade for BD1. And if you don't have that, it will teleport you back up way back into that room with the elevator, and that's the only reason we're opening that door is because you can't get out otherwise unless you ride the elevator out. If we were doing a
Intéressant.
PBC run,
Donc
we
ça,
wouldn't have to open that door. We could just PBC through it.
wow. Il y a une porte qui doit être sûre d'ouvrir. Sinon, le jeu va regarder si t'as une habilité. Tu l'as pas, comme là il l'a pas en ce moment. Il va te téléporter complètement genre au début à l'ascenseur, genre.
But yeah, the wall was a huge
Donc là, il passe
obstacle,
par
and
là
for a
pour
while, the only way
activer genre
Panache could figure
une
out how to
sauvegarde
skip
plus
it
loin,
was
genre.
with a PBC, and he found a way to do it without PBC. It's what you're seeing now. He's going to do a very precise jump and then photo mode to get the
No
tunnel to
faith.
load in
Mais
around
oui.
him. Textbook.
Perfect. Perfect.
À quel moment les mecs se sont promenés en dehors de la map? Il y en a
And
un qui
he
s'est dit,
found a way to do it without PBC. It's
ouais,
what
je
you're
vais
seeing
sauter
now. He's
là,
gonna do a very precise
à cet endroit-là précis, je vais faire pause.
jump and
Puis
then
ah,
photo
je sais que il y a un tunnel qui était là.
mode to get the
No
tunnel to
faith.
load in around him. Textbook.
Perfect. Perfect. Did you discover
N'importe quoi.
that loading trigger, Panache?
Myself
Yes, he
and
Panache did everything.
Brendo worked together on
Nice.
that one.
Well done, guys. That was a huge time save. The powered
Ooh.
zipline that Vesper was just talking about is BD's ability to ride a zipline up a slope. And the game expects you to be soft locked if you make it all the way down here without that ability. And so it just teleports you to a place that's safe to not have it. Oh,
Yep. I don't possibly understand how a casual player could get down there without powered zipline.
They would have to do
There is a
lot
chance
of-
they could save at that.
Attends. Il était fier de son coup en plus, attends.
You make it all the way down here without that ability.
Alors là.
And so it
Mec,
just teleports you
oui, non, c'est parce qu'il y a le truc qui ferme. Ouais, c'est un piège, c'est vrai, puis il tombe en bas, c'est vrai.
to not have it. Oh,
Yep.
just barely fell.
I don't possibly understand how a casual player could get down there without powered zipline.
They would have to do
There is a
a
Dans
lot.
l'autre
chance they
catégorie,
could
le world
save
record est
at that
1.18, ça veut
meditation
dire
circle
qu'il aurait
and
fini
they
le
would
jeu quasiment à ce
theoretically
point.
be hard locked.
Exactly.
But
Ouais,
that
presque.
wall can save you from
Mais
it,
c'est parce
and
que
it's ironic
l'autre catégorie, c'est que tu passes à travers les murs, c'est full glitché. C'est encore plus glitché. Ça, c'est une catégorie qui est un peu plus legit. Un peu plus, hein.
because on
Voilà.
the way out of Kashyyyk, we actually used that wall to teleport back, which is a lot.
Je voulais pas
faster, and
l'écouter de
it's
toute façon
ironic
parce que je pense que c'est un Allemand qui est là, donc on comprend que dalle de ce qu'il dit. Puis je pense pas qu'il parle pas de la run non plus, il fait juste parler à son chat. Ça, c'est beaucoup plus intéressant parce qu'il nous explique qu'est-ce qu'ils font à travers le tout.
so much time and effort trying to figure out a way to skip it on the way in.
Exactly. And then now that we're on the other side of it, it's going to be the exact thing that
Voilà, le speedrun de GFO est quand même incroyable. Il est vraiment nice. Genre, les skips qu'ils font, genre, c'est tellement cool.
we're going to use to get out of this planet as quickly as possible.
Wow,
So
check
this
ça!
skip here is a very
Ah,
precise
il a
skip.
pas eu.
Oh, that's very tough.
Oh, just a little
so
short.
it's he's going
Il est
to do a
compliqué
little bit
celui-là,
of
ce qui paraît.
pinballing around this stage. Okay, I'm just going to take the backup strat.
Yeah, I'm
so
back up. All right.
this backup strat is faster, probably.
Yeah.
It's just not as cool
It's the
looking.
other one is
So-
extremely precise and difficult. It's not really even
Damn,
worth
tu
doing. I
dashes
just
sur les
wanted to
champignons,
try
ben,
and
les
show it
bulbes.
off.
Yeah, no, that was cool. So he just did this dash off of this launch pad into a rope. The game does not expect you to do that at all. That's not how they want you to do this. In fact, you're supposed to have the ability to do force pull at this point in the game. Force pull allows you to kind of just get kind of close to ropes and then pull them into you so that you can swing wherever you need to go.
Ah, c'est ça.
Instead,
Là, normalement, t'es supposé déjà avoir l'attirance. Il a pas l'attirance. Par exemple, la liane qui était là, normalement, t'es supposé l'attirer vers toi. Mais lui, il s'en calisse.
the way that Panache did that, he dashed into that launch pad, which is not intended behavior, and then very precisely angled himself into that rope. If
Ça,
it
c'est
looked
super
like
précis.
it was easier or given, then it
Parce
was.
que t'es un peu
it was
trop sur la
the
droite,
trick
tu montes la
and
liane,
optical
genre.
illusion, because it is extremely precise. If you're off by a degree, then you will miss. So here, Panache is going to dash up some 3D
Oh.
geometry that was not intended to be.
Suboptimal slug
Yeah,
placement.
it's an
Yeah.
unfortunate
Tout à fait.
slug. Skipping a good 30 seconds of map there, which that was perfect. And a little cleanse.
So basically, the
Est-ce qu'il va
only
battre la
thing we
9e
need
star?
on Kashyyyk is Jedi Flip, and that's the only reason we're going this far
Moi,
into Kashyyyk.
il va
We don't actually
100%
fight
skip
the
la
Night Sister
sœur.
at all. We don't even see her after Braca. And we're basically just turning around, getting a Jedi flip, and then heading out because it grants us the ability of the glitch that we just mentioned previously. And we don't even fight the Night Sister, we just turn around and
Ouais, il s'en fout, il va juste chercher l'habilité.
Basically.
The other thing is that you also are supposed to get the rebreather, which is the ability to it's like
skip
Cal's,
that one day.
Cal's scuba gear. So it's you really don't technically need it, but it is kind of complicated to do the rest of the run without it. I don't know if you can without a cheat, as a matter of fact. So here we're going to skip an encounter with
Not quite far enough on that jump, but this skip thankfully doesn't lose very much time if you mess it up. But it does skip a pretty long cutscene where the Night Sister shows up and tries
ça,
to.
il y a une cinématique qui vient de passer encore une fois.
Just for
the Night
funsies.
Sister
Parce que normalement, la 9ème sœur arrive dans son vaisseau, il y a une cinématique et tout.
Second sister,
Là, il s'en bat les couilles.
who is kind of like a Sith intern.
Wow.
Her job is to
Il a failli
hunt
tomber.
Jedi,
Oh,
and
oh c'est
so
slick.
we will not see her in this run at all because of glitches that we're going to use to skip all of the parts that she's included in.
Yep. After barrier skip, we basically just have to play through most of the origin tree section casually, with a few little skips sprinkled in there just to skip cutscenes and little bits of climbing sections and whatnot. But yeah, we're basically just trying to get up and get Jedi flip as fast as possible, which we're coming up to pretty quickly actually.
Coming up very soon.
Tu m'étonnes, sinon c'est trop lent.
This actually might be a good opportunity to read a donation. We probably got about 30 seconds or so.
Sure. We got a $25 donation from Pharaoh's Queen, who says, I've been hyped for this Fallen Order run since the schedule was announced. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I'm so excited to see it finally get featured. Remember, trust only in the Force.
Awesome.
That's great.
Persistence
great
reveals the path. You can do another one. You got more?
Pointless acrobatics.
Oh, oh.
So
Petit grenouille là. Je suis pas là.
Panache had to dive under the water here in order to get below this barrier. As he resurfaces, it's very important that he resurfaces from the water at the exact same moment that Cal's going to put his feet down on this surface. If he does that, then Cal won't take a second to catch his breath, which was very well done there.
Il y a une seconde. Il est
So
sorti
now
de
just a
l'eau au
little
bon
bit of
moment.
movement in order to
Bien sûr.
get to the next launch pad.
N'importe
It's
quoi.
going to take a dash flip to get past this slug.
Oh,
Nice
je pense
This
que...
is actually the last target lock jump in the game because we're about to get a much better ability for vertical
Whoopsie
movement.
daisy. Well, one more target lock jump. And there it is.
Oh, my midair stim canceled my climb.
Oh, whoops.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Dommage.
I was getting scared. I was gonna die.
That stim was
Story
his
mode.
ability to heal himself. Typically unnecessary.
Donc là, normalement, il fera plus le truc de saut et de freeze. On n'aura plus besoin, il y aura une meilleure habileté pour. C'est ça qui va débloquer là en ce moment.
All right, and so here we're headed into the memory where Cal learns how to Jedi flip. A Jedi flip is the
Jedi
ability to do a double jump.
Double
essentially.
jump, ouais.
So Cal will jump, and the game sets a flag that says that he can jump one
Me
more
fascine
time.
ce genre de
in
speedrun.
midair.
Moi aussi, c'est tellement intéressant.
And as
Alors la
part of
façon dont ils ont
that,
découvert ça là, oh.
May 4th patch of the game, changing the way that cancels worked, movement cancellations worked, caused this new glitch that we're going to be using for the rest of the run. Essentially, the way that it works, Panache is going to jump, and then he's going to jump again, activating the Jedi flip. And then he's going to use the slow ability. The slow ability will then cancel the Jedi flip flag and allow him to do another Jedi flip. And then he will hit slow again, and he will do another Jedi flip, and he will hit slow again, and he'll do another Jedi flip, and he'll hit slow again.
Attends, quoi? Il est en train de voler. Ok, c'est ça qu'il expliquait. C'est que là, avec le double saut, il peut voler, genre littéralement. Il saute, double saut, slow. Double saut, slow. Double saut.
And he'll do another Jedi flip. And
Mais
he will
quoi?
fly now directly to the places
Oh
that we've
mon dieu, mais il peut
discovered
aller
through
n'importe où maintenant, c'est sûr.
exhaustive testing. Tons of hours of trying to find these loading triggers to
Mais c'est ça, genre. Là, avec ça, c'est que tu peux aller n'importe où. Donc, imaginez toutes les possibilités qu'ils ont dû aller chercher en volant pour trouver les bons triggers qui chargent les bonnes zones de la map. Oh my god.
Load the next part of these planets.
Alors là, il est en dehors de la
Nash
map.
is the
Comment le
king of
mec a
loading
su que c'était
triggers,
là,
and the
genre?
one we're on our way to right now, as you can see,
Comme,
we just immediately
des
turned
heures
around
et des
as soon as
heures
we
de
got Jedi
travail.
Flip, 'cause we
Des
don't
centaines
need
d'heures.
to go any farther. We don't need to fight the boss of this area. We can just turn around and head back to actually the exact same loading trigger that we hit
Ah, mon
during barrier skip to actually get into the tunnel originally. It's the same loading trigger. There is a much more tried and tested way of hitting it, but Panache just discovered this way the other day, and he is very brave, so he's going to be going for it. It's a little bit
very
faster because it's a
precise.
straight line, but it's very precise. There's almost no
There's no
existing
visual
visual
cue.
cues to
Yeah.
use for anything.
Ouais, c'est ça, il y a aucun
Not to make him nervous.
visuel pour lui dire
You got this, buddy.
exactement que c'est là, genre. C'est super
Done this a
précis.
few times in the last 2
Don't
days.
worry, it's only the hardest trick in the game. So.
So like, you know,
Oh, and he nailed it. There it is.
perfect.
That's
He loads directly into the tunnel, and
Oh
you're
my
gonna see he's
goodness.
gonna come up here. And we're actually gonna, the screen's gonna turn black, and we're all of a sudden gonna be back up in the elevator room.
and he teleported back to the elevator.
Mais c'est n'importe quoi.
Zip line.
Oh mon
Exactly.
dieu.
So the ability to powered zip,
Comment il a trouvé ça?
which we did not
Oh là 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 là. Un oiseau, un avion, non c'est quel qu'est-ce que c'est?
yet, teleported us back up to this room, and now Panache is going to fly around and hit a very specific loading trigger.
Ouais, il va
He's hitting
trigger
this
une nouvelle
loading
zone.
trigger. He doesn't actually have to technically do it, but if he does not
Tellement
hit
low
this loading
poly.
trigger, then there's like a 1 in
la
4 or
qualité est
5
shit.
chance that the elevator
voilà.
that he's going to ride in just a moment will stop at the bottom and not open its doors. And it might take 2 or 3 or 5 minutes for it to open its doors. And we don't know why that happens. We don't have a good understanding of,
Wow.
of what causes the elevator to get stuck there. But what we do know is that if you hit that one loading trigger, then we don't usually see this weird problem where the elevator gets stuck. So we entered this elevator from the side where there was no world loaded. We're going to ride it down into the middle of Kashyyyk, and then as soon as it stops, we're going to reactivate the elevator, and we're going to ride it all the way back to the Mantis, and it's going to let us out right at the door of the Mantis, skipping the entire rest of this planet.
J'en peux plus, hein. C'est ridicule, c'est ridicule.
Huge
Le mec,
time-
parce que c'est ça, c'est que tu peux pas aller au Mantis sans passer par l'ascenseur en revenant. Sauf que l'ascenseur est bloqué du côté du Mantis. Donc, il faut que tu sortes de la map pour entrer de l'extérieur de l'autre côté, que tu descends l'ascenseur en bas, puis que tu le remontes. Puis là, ah, ça va avoir chargé le Mantis. Tu peux en aller et t'auras fini Kashyyyk sans avoir tout fait le reste.
save, huge skip, and as you can see, we did not get the long elevator, so brilliantly done.
There normally would be a cutscene
Mec, je
upon
replonge dans
entering the
l'univers Star Wars
Mantis if you
dernièrement.
did fight the Night
Ça
Sister,
fait plaisir de
and
retomber sur tes
we
vidéos.
didn't-
Ben,
we don't have
re-bienvenue,
to
mec,
watch
un
that
plaisir de
anymore. It's the
t'avoir.
one where Grease pours a concerning amount of salt onto his food. And thankfully we don't have, that's no longer canon, thankfully, so yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna save Grease's heart. There were actually, we did find another way to skip that
Les wookies
cutscene
dégueulasses, oui.
right before this route was refined and we
Right before we
no
could
longer
fly.
fight the Ninth Sister. Yeah, exactly. And that method of skipping the cutscene was actually really neat and would have been cool to show off, but it's totally not necessary now that we can fly
Yep.
and skip the Ninth Sister fight. So Panache is
Nothing
just standing
matters
at
anymore.
the exactly. Panache is
Nothing
just
matters
standing at the
after Kashyyyk.
terrarium. Right. So from here on out, this game is going to move really quickly.
It's all
Things-
flying.
Ouais, voilà. En fait, tout le début qu'on a vu, pendant 1h19, il a déjà fini Kashyyyk en 1h19. What the fuck? Depuis tout le début, il faisait plein de petits trucs et astuces pour passer les trucs le mieux qu'il pouvait. Mais il pouvait pas voler. Là, il peut voler. Donc, il peut littéralement aller où ce qu'il veut. Donc, ça va aller très rapidement d'ici la fin du jeu, j'ai l'impression.
Things are going to move fast. It's
Yeah,
going to
we've
be
got
flying
about
to
25
specific
minutes
targets.
Yo,
left
ok,
in
comme ça
the
va.
run.
Yeah, yeah,
Ah ouais, il est très
exactly,
chaud.
exactly.
It basically
So-
just involves flying through the void to hit the loading trigger for the last area that we want. And then
Yeah.
doing the same thing to come back.
Yeah,
Ouais,
we're
c'est ça.
going
T'as juste à aller, t'as juste à voler. Hop.
to
va
skip
chercher
a
l'endroit
lot
où
of
ça
stuff
charge
in rapid
la zone que tu
succession,
veux,
and
puis
it's all
voilà,
very
tu passes à la
precise,
suite, quoi.
but really neat to watch, in my opinion. And you saw that Panache was standing at the terrarium,
Je suis
waiting
quand même curieux de voir
for,
comment ils vont
Grease and
passer
Seer to start
les autres
just
boss.
yapping
Malikos,
about
la
whatever,
chauve-souris,
and he
etc.
immediately canceled their conversation, went to his co-pilot seat and sat down.
Même Trilla en fait.
now
Oh, man,
we're headed
Vador à la
into
fin.
Dathomir. Dathomir is the home planet of the Night
Skip,
Brothers and
skip
Night
Vador.
Sisters.
Oh mon dieu.
You
Oh,
may
ouais.
or
C'est
may
sûr que
not
oui, en
know
fait.
of a character named Darth Maul. He's a Night Brother. We are going to skip a small cutscene here where a Night Sister is introduced. Her name is Marin. By flying over
Non,
the
il a
trigger,
skip
that was
Mérine.
perfectly done.
Il est passé
and
au-dessus.
If you are familiar with
Donc,
that,
il a passé les
the story
cinématiques.
progresses, there is a lengthy flashback that you go through, and then Cal faces his nightmares or what have you,
Mais
and gets his lightsaber
où
broken.
est Mérine?
And
Non.
this usually requires you to go to the planet Ilum. The game basically forces you to, so you can repair your lightsaber and then come back to Dathomir to face your fears. And
qu'elle est pas dans le trailer.
obtain the
On la voit pas
Astrum,
dans
which is what we're
Fallen
here
Order
for,
non plus en
which is
fait.
what unlocks
Elle n'existe
Holocron.
pas.
we're not doing any of
And
that.
no, about we
Mais
don't
c'est
like
cool.
Ilum. Ilum's
Oh.
boring. So
Yeah.
about a month and a half ago, I'd say, a member of the community discovered a way to load the part of this temple that has the Astrium in it without actually leaving, which we thought to be impossible before this.
Pour
So we
vrai?
actually found a way to do
Ouais, c'est parce que normalement, t'es supposé aller sur Dathomir une fois. Tu peux pas aller dans le temple parce que t'as pas l'Atrium, c'est l'objet là. Faut que t'ailles faire d'autres choses, puis tu reviens après. Là, il y a des gens qui ont trouvé une façon de t'en battre les couilles.
Dathomir in one visit, which
Non, mec, il triche là. Donc là, il est censé terminer le jeu en 25 minutes. Exact! Ça fait zéro sens! Le skip le plus broken, PTDR.
saves like about 10 minutes off of this run.
It might even be
So
more
that
than
was-
that. I mean,
That was astounding.
at that point, it might have been 10 minutes because we had a really optimized Ilum, but Ilum is actually a pretty long
Exactly.
planet. But yeah,
Yeah.
we have a huge time.
En fait, t'as pas besoin d'aller sur Illum. Waouh! Ok. Ah, c'est un énorme time skip. C'est plus que 10 minutes, mec. Tu sauves tellement de temps.
I'm saved by not having to go to Ilum at all. So here, Cal is resting at this meditation pad, and he's going to have a bad acid trip. He's going to remember the
Au
moment
moins.
that Order 66
Au moins, il fait l'ordre 66. Respect. Good. Au moins.
happened, but we're not going to do any of that.
Oh.
Instead, we're just going to immediately fly out of bounds, going
Bon,
past
bien
these
sûr.
stormtroopers who are all
Ils sont...
friendly until the moment they attempt to kill you, and then fly under a loading trigger.
J'ai rien dit. Il fait même pas l'ordre 66. Ils s'en bat les couilles.
That would have taken us back to the planet of Dathomir and then up into a loading trigger that exposes the rest of the Order 66 flashback scene. This is extremely precise. There are no real
Très
visual
précis, c'est
cues
ça.
of where he is. He's using the building to see kind of the edges.
Il se
of
dirige
where it's
avec un
located.
peu
the
selon où il voit le
He's using the
bâtiment, mais il y a...
Force. It's
Voilà.
very tough to know where
You
this
might have
is.
missed it.
Yeah,
Yep,
missed
it's
it.
just gotta double back a little bit.
Il a manqué.
It's a very, very tough loading
There
trigger.
Oh,
He got it.
wow.
Oh,
Il l'a
He
trouvé.
really lost any time to that.
Incroyable.
Oh my god, he only lost like a second or two, which is tough if you
So-
missed that. That is
Yeah. All we
C'est la
really
fin
need
de
to
l'heure
do is load in the
66.
final room and trigger this cutscene, which is what lets the back half of the temple load. And
On
normally
est
this
mort.
whole Order 66 flashback ordeal, all the gameplay and cutscenes involved, usually takes you about 10
Oh.
minutes to get to this point from when you meditate. And when you fly out of the roof like that, it takes about less than a minute to get here. So
let's
Je préfère
qualify
l'ordre
that,
69, je
'cause
pense.
10 minutes.
Mec.
It
Mais
takes
oui.
10 minutes to do that if you are playing an optimal, already optimized,
yeah, if
heavily
you've played
cut,
it before, yeah,
skipping route.
you know where to go.
Exactly. I think that casually you could probably spend, a couple of hours playing this Order
Especially if you're
66.
taking in all the nostalgia.
Exactly. And it's actually really cool. And it's kind of sad
It's a
to
really
skip
cool
it all,
scene the
but-
first dozen times.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
after that, not so much.
On the 120th time, you're like, okay, I don't know if I can hear Cal cry his little heart out
Cal's
again.
screaming, Cal's
Ah
screaming.
oui, tu l'as cru Cal.
He's gonna have a boohoo moment. And you feel for him.
Just good
Bon,
idea.
c'est Mathieu,
Oh
on va
yeah,
faire.
we have 20 dedicated to panache. So favorite light shout out
Oh.
to my Fallen Order when it came out, and I can't wait to see it crushed in 2 hours.
Oh.
Shout out to my bae Marin from Dathomir. Sadly, we didn't
Allez.
get to see so much of her. I will donate another
Ah, ça, c'est une
10
grosse
if the
cinématique.
couch
Il
of the
sort de
runner
la
can
zone.
guess my favorite lightsaber color. Hint: it's available in the game.
Cyan.
Ooh. Indigo.
Go battre le record speedrun sur Jedi Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order. Oh la voix québécoise. Jesus Christ. Yo, merci mec, c'est super. Oh my god. Woo. Merci, c'est super généreux de ta part, gros. Merci pour le don. Moi, battre le record du monde, easy. 1h, attends combien? 1h45? C'est facile à battre, ça, voyons.
All right, we got our
Yellow.
passes in there.
All right.
Like cyan.
So Panache
Ouais, dites un gros
flew
GG.
out of that fight with Jaro DePaul instead of like breaking his
Super généreux.
lightsaber with him. And instead,
Ça aide
he's
beaucoup.
going back into the temple where he had that nightmare flashback, and
Et
he
il retourne
is going to hit this meditation point, which now allows him to exit this temple and go directly to the Astrium, which is the key
Ah non, il
that
doit aller.
will unlock the holocron back on Bogano.
Oui.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure what happens here, but doing this exact set of moves in a row lets the back half of the temple lotus we used to think was impossible without going to Ilum. It basically tricks the game into thinking you did the flashback and then you left and came back, which is what the save quit does.
Exactly.
And
right, yeah.
then it tricks the game into thinking you're here for a second time after going to Ilum, even though we are obviously still on
Voilà,
Dathomir, so
théoriquement, il peut plus
Ilum's
sortir de la
not
salle.
even
là.
crossed our
Parce
mind
que
at
t'as
this
pas la
point.
triumph.
You'll notice that Panache is taking a weird route out of this room. Obviously not the intended way, but unfortunately he is locked in because of the way that
Ready? Ah ouais, je suis 100% prêt pour faire un speedrun sur ce jeu, mec, ça a l'air tellement facile, ouais. T'as vu les sauts précis, alors qu'il n'y a aucun truc visuel pour te guider ou aller dans l'espace en volant, mec. T'inquiète.
he has circumvented so much of the story. And so the only way out of that room is through
Les vieux trucs de Unreal 4 que tu...
a weird crack in the roof that kind of leads to like a chimney, and you kind of Santa Claus out of there. So now we are on top of the back half of this temple, which, as you can see, doesn't have any textures. And we have to land in a very specific spot in order to load the back half.
Oh!
Perfect. And from here, we're going to totally skip the most interesting part of this game, which is our friend
Malikos?
Malikos.
Ouais, Malikos,
That's
Ouais.
cool.
what the
Malphite's
fuck?
cameo
Attends, mais toute l'arène est... C'est pas chargé?
in this game.
Oh, there he is, yeah.
It's basically just a cameo at this
There he
point.
goes.
Yep,
Just
unfortunately.
waiting,
an extra.
patiently
We're just
waiting.
I'm gonna
Mais
fly
là,
over
il
instead of
skip
fighting him.
Malikos comme ça.
He
Oh, le
was
non-respect.
super
Ouh.
cool.
Please don't fall
Nice.
down. Please don't fall down.
Yeah, so by doing the camera mode like he was doing, there's a good chance that his next inputs get eaten and he can fall down and end up fighting Terran Malikos. So that was a little brave, but he did just
But not
fine.
wise.
Oh
So now he's
ouais.
going to very specifically avoid touching the ground here to
Touche pas
avoid
le sol.
another little cutscene and grab the Astrium in
Elle lui a
such a
skip une
way
cinématique.
that Cal is having a cutscene with a character Marin, who is a Night Sister, who should have
Elle est chauve!
been introduced to us a while ago now. She's not fully loaded. Her hair is
Elle est pas
missing.
chargée au complet.
Also, her hood is missing. And also the floor is missing. And so...
Nothing makes sense.
C'est pas un skin. C'est juste que, vu qu'ils se sont jamais rencontrés encore dans le jeu, ben elle est pas chargée au complet, genre. Il lui manque sa capuche et tout.
Nothing really makes
Elle vole en ce moment, il y a même pas de sol en dessous d'elle.
sense. We watch this little cutscene, and at the end of it, Cal is going to fall into the void, and he's going to void out, and the game will respawn him at the last place that he was standing on solid ground, which is all the way back at the beginning
Waouh, ça va le tuer puis ça va le réapparaître à la dernière place qui a touché le sol, c'est-à-dire tout au début du temple. Il va tout skip.
of the temple, essentially warping him back out of this planet. Another huge time save that he will have to exit Dathomir in breakneck speed.
We can probably work a couple more donations in real quick.
Yeah, perfect.
Some of this to Pete.
Thank you, Elaine.
Hopefully, you
Cinématique.
do. Game have been something that's a little bit
Didn't know about it.
that had to fly.
Didn't watch your run.
There's a lot putting forth here. We have a $25 donation from Baron Carrot of Caldara, who says
Humor.
putting forth another donation because people like P. Nash's grandmother need
Il est réapparu au début du temps. C'est un scandale.
lots
J'en ai marre,
of
hein.
love. P. Nash, your fellow gamers stand with you, Caldara stands with you, and long live your grandma.
Ce qui me fait peur, c'est qu'il va faire la même chose avec Fallen Order 2. Alors, les mécaniques seront pas pareilles parce que les mouvements dans le jeu ont l'air d'avoir été changés. En fait, le character design va être nouveau, donc ils vont probablement pas pouvoir reproduire les mêmes mouvements, mais c'est sûr qu'ils vont le speedrun, puis c'est sûr qu'ils vont trouver des moyens de finir le jeu en 1 heure. Ça va prendre du temps. Hein, au début, je pense que le world record, c'était...
That's great.
les premiers, là, c'est dans les
Penis
3-4
pointed
heures,
out
genre.
and was respawned back in the temple. He exited
Là, c'est rendu
again through
1
the
heure.
chimney like Santa Claus, and now he's on his way back to the Mantis in the fastest way possible. The game just does not know what is going on at this point. It knows that
Ouais,
he
le
has
jeu
the
doit être genre,
Ashram.
tu comprends plus rien ce qui se
Typically,
passe
there would
là.
be zombies all over the place, and
Ah, ça, il est supposé avoir plein de zombies ici, il y en a pas.
Cutscene in there somewhere that you'd have to watch, but nah, we don't like cutscenes. You can't
Malchus
tell.
makes a really good point. He explains to Cal that it's not a great idea to try to restart the Jedi Order. He's actually a really smart guy, and Cal, in the casual play of this game, murders him for it.
So we actually have to fly up over this because that trigger to introduce Marin to us is still there.
C'est vrai. Il vient de passer au-dessus de la cinématique qui nous introduit à Myrine encore une fois parce qu'elle est encore là malgré le fait.
Even
Il a tout
though
fait le
we
reste.
already know who Marin is and she's already coming back with us, the game still wants us to try and meet her for the first time. So the cutscene trigger is still there on the way out, so that's why Panache had to fly over a little bit.
That's right, that's right. And so now he's headed back into the Mantis, and we're going to watch another cutscene, which will be another great opportunity for some more donations.
All right, we have $25 from Leo. Says, "Hey Panache, Leo pause.
Il est encore pas
Cash
cherché.
Force order."
Quelle
We have
horreur.
$10 from Trey Shirt, who says,
Planet
Okay.
the Vault,
Très bon.
Bogano, which is the first open world planet
Bogano.
that we
Il
visited.
retourne à Bogano à la fin, là.
We're now returning with MacGuffin to unlock the vault.
McMuffin.
The McMuffin, yes. And we're going to head directly to that vault. We're going to then attempt to retrieve the holocron, and it
Holocron.
is going to cause another
voilà, elle est
nightmare
chargée, là.
vision for Cal. Her mirror, he really doesn't seem to hear another. If you're doing an all bosses run, a lot of runs die there. It's this like giant bat monster. I don't know if I want to ruin it for anybody, but God, it's such a cool character. If you haven't seen it, do check it out.
Bon. Ça, il passe pas par le même chemin. Ben, Inoue, il peut voler, donc il s'en bat les couilles, voilà.
Can't do anything I'm gonna do. Just lag.
Yeah, so there's a lot of lag here because there's a lot of like NPCs floating around. That's the first thing that's kind of a complication here. The second
Il y a
thing
beaucoup de
is
lag sur
that
Bogano. Il y a
there's
trop
a lot
de...
of enemies that you
d'ennemis,
can
genre.
accidentally target and that are targeting you, and so you don't have a lot of force to work with. So optimizing force is a big part of this. Panache is going to only do dashes where he can, and try to optimize around doing as many dashes as is possible, trying to avoid the eye of any enemies that might be aggroed against him.
Et il est déjà au temple, bien sûr.
So moving into that same room where we had the first video log.
On sait que sur
with,
Jedi sur la durée du jeu sera plus longue que
Cordova.
Fallen Order.
Now
Ah oui, oui,
we're
bien
going
sûr.
to
C'est sûr que
use
oui.
the Astrium to unlock a mirror.
Pas
and have a
énormément,
look at
mais je devine
ourselves
plus.
as the future that we are trying to avoid.
We think about some stuff a little bit.
Yes.
Après, ça dépend de
We
l'histoire,
actually
j'avoue.
don't really need to see much of this flashback because it's mostly just fluff. It is really cool to witness on your first playthrough. I know I was like completely engrossed with it the first time I played this game, but
Ouais, cette
we don't
cinématique-là
really
est
need to
cool.
sit through all the little flashbacks and fog walls, so we just kind of fly past most of it, which is kind of a theme if you hadn't noticed of the
Ouais,
last
ça,
half
cette
of this
partie-là
run.
était vraiment nice.
That's right. So the way that this area works, it kind of guides you into some specific locations and then throws up some walls around you
Ils sont
and
bons.
expects you to watch what your potential future will be like when you
Aïe.
get the Jedi holocron and go find the force-sensitive
Ici, ça te
children
montre
throughout the
le-
galaxy. But
le calque
if
6
we
du côté
just
obscur.
fly to some very specific points and hit some loading triggers at some exact places to set up the next areas, then we can fly out of those whatever.
Ah ouais, tu peux
future
sortir de la
visions
bulle de
and
la
head
vision, genre.
directly to the second sister, who will kind of blackmail us into joining the Inquisitors.
Et voilà.
That's
The only
right.
thing the game we need to do on Bogano 2 is just click on the holocron as he did. So now we just need to get out.
That's right. So from here, Panache is going to fly out of bounds, head to the next loading trigger where we are going to transform into Darth Cal.
Ouais, Dark Kestis.
And
Nice.
since we fly out of this flashback and never trigger what takes it off, we can actually stay in this outfit for quite a while. Although there is one more save quit we have to do on
Mais
the
lol.
last level, so we can't actually keep it.
Normalement, quand tu sors de la vision, ben, ça te remet en Kestis normal. Mais lui, il sort jamais de la vision, il sort de la map pour aller plus vite.
At the very end
Donc
of the
il
game,
reste avec le costume de
yeah,
Dark
Cal
Cal.
does look great in his
Yeah.
Inquisitor uniform.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very weird with the
Wow!
Mandalorian mod with the helmet
Oh,
on there. That was
incroyable.
Very strange to
Donc
look
tu,
at.
tu restes avec
So
le...
yeah, we're basically just trying to get out of Bogano as fast as we can,
bon,
heading
ça.
back to the Mantis, flying wherever possible, dashing whenever we're on the ground,
Soudainement, le Jedi qui veut sauver les Younglings est du côté obscur.
because that's very, very, very fast. Flying horizontally is not very fast compared to
Encore le
dashing.
sabre rouge.
So yeah, Panache is going to be trying to dash as much as we can, and we obviously don't have powered zip lines, so you just have,
Ouais, il a
has
pas
to
l'habilité de
awkwardly fly
BD.
alongside of it like this, because there is a loading trigger on the zip line that we need to hit on the way out.
So it's very
And-
important that
yeah.
Panache uses the route that he's taking right now. It looks like he's flying directly to the Mantis, but he's actually taking a little bit of an out of his way path. The reason that he's doing that is because if you hit a certain sequence of loading triggers just so, it's possible for the game to attempt to load a behavior of an NPC that doesn't exist, or perhaps a texture, and crash. And if it crashes to desktop. So
Yep. And
Oh, ok. Là, il a pris un chemin super précis. Et s'il le prend pas, il peut littéralement faire crash. Non seulement le jeu, mais de ce que j'ai compris, le PC, genre. Chaud. C'est quand même chaud.
Panache has never really had issues with crashing, but a lot of runners
Sabre
have,
d'inquisiteur.
and it's pretty common to lose every other run that gets here to that sort of crash unless you take a route that goes way out of the way. And
Oh non,
if
mais
anyone
attends,
still
c'est-
watching,
ouais.
we'd like to get a little bit
Ouais.
of insight into what maybe causes this crash, because it's pretty frustrating to say the least.
yeah, I've done a little
Le
bit of
sabre de
analysis
l'autre.
on some crash dumps that
J'avais oublié.
we've gathered from the game, and what it looks like is that it's attempting to display a texture that doesn't exist. That's what it looks
Lui,
like.
j'ai- comment
It
ça
looks
va?
like maybe it's
Quand les
trying
choses
to
viennent
hit it
derrière, ouais.
off of disk, but it's not off yet, and it's trying to display it before it's ready. That's what it appears to me to be null.
Empire.
Cinématique, on va
Great.
skip.
Colors
Là, il devient chevalier
First
Jedi.
off, we're going to attempt to regain the
On est...
holocron from
Ah ouais, on est
Now,
à la fin, guys. Il reste 4 minutes. C'est fou. Là, il va aller à la forteresse. Ouais, voilà.
You might not have seen anything about the holocron just now.
Alors, normalement, on arrive dans l'eau. Et l'eau est très lent. Donc, j'ai hâte de voir ce qu'il va faire à ce niveau-là. Surtout au niveau du combat de Trilla après, puis le combat de Vador.
What was supposed to happen was we were going to have that nightmare flash forward where we are shown what will happen if we get the holocron, and then we exit out the remaining mini conversation. And this might be another opportunity for
because
Okay.
war was that were story. So Nur
Bon.
basically consists
Ça,
of
ça va être
about
cool.
4 or 5 different glitches that
La
were
fin du
all
jeu.
completely different, and were all potential run killers. So Nur was easily the most stressful part of the run before flying. It was very easy to make one slight mistake and just completely kill your run, and half the time it wasn't even your fault because we were trying to clip through a door that really didn't want us to. And now Nur is pretty boring. All we have to do is hit a couple load triggers and then leave. That's basically it. We don't even have to watch a cutscene or nothing.
Ah ouais?
It's actually really quick now. We've got it down
Wow.
to what, 7 minutes from the previous entrance on.
Ouais, avant,
to
c'était
the
super
Mantis, is that
compliqué,
right?
cette partie-là du
Or
speedrun, à ce
minutes.
qui
Yeah,
paraît.
about 7:20-ish
Yeah.
around there.
Ouais,
Did
avant
you say
c'était super
4 minutes once
compliqué.
you're loaded into the planet? Is that
4
Là,
minutes
c'est rendu
of
facile, genre.
cutscenes, yeah. 3 minutes of
4 minutes
gameplay.
of cutscenes. It's actually 3
There's
minutes of gameplay.
Yeah.
3 minutes of gameplay once we
Right.
get into the water, so it's
That's
very
right.
quick.
So there was
Wait.
one part in particular that was
Il est
pretty
dans l'eau!
RNG, where there was a dojo
Il marche dans l'eau!
where you see
Oh, c'est un scandale!
the troopers, the stormtroopers training essentially and fighting each other. If you perform a
Il
very
marche dans l'eau.
specific trick and it's very, very tight, you can skip that entire room. But it was pretty much RNG as to whether or not it worked
N'importe
correctly.
quoi.
And so lots of runs, 3 hours into their run ended there.
Et voilà.
It was such a heartbreaker, and now
Attends, il va-tu
we
arriver dans
have
la
the
salle de
ability
Vador
to
direct?
essentially fly
Non.
past everything that we don't want to play. We hit a
So
very
Panache is
specific.
gonna hit this load trigger with like no visual cues.
There's no visual cue there.
There we go.
Oh,
And
il est
this
où
is
là?
actually a very new optimization that
Il y
Panache
est?
just found the other day.
Mais si
So we're
rapidement!
actually going to drop down and touch the ground just outside this turbo lift, which is actually, if you know, played the game before, this is the way out of Nur after you fight Trilla.
Ouais, il doit
So
aller,
actually
il
gonna
doit aller
touch
là.
the ground
Ouais, il
there,
doit aller
and
là,
we're gonna do a
ok.
very similar trick to what we just did on Dathomir and what Bang Up explained about voiding out and warping with a death warp type of thing. So we're gonna be very careful to not touch the ground as we're flying through here, and we're gonna be flying into the
Il
ceiling
doit pas toucher le
of
sol,
Trilla's
sinon
boss
ça
room.
chie.
And the only thing the game's really checking for is that you're inside this room. And then once it does that, it's already preloaded the ending sequence of the game.
Attends, ils vont
And
dans la
all
salle.
we have to
Dans
do
la
is
salle contre
fly
Vador?
into this room, hover out a little bit, hover around a bit to make sure we hit that load trigger, and then fly over an invisible wall to void out, and we should respawn next to the turbo lift,
Oh mon dieu.
and he'll just be able to
Attends.
hit the button and leave.
Attends, mais
You don't even
Vador
have
et
to do
Trilla?
anything. That's literally
Wait, il y a
all the
Vador
game
qui va
checks
être-
for. So yeah, now that's basically the game.
That was perfect. So
Attends, quoi?
time is coming
C'est n'importe quoi. Attends, mais mec.
up in probably about a
Oh
minute.
là 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 là.
It will
All to void out. Game before
Alors,
the
ce qu'il
site
fait
is inside
ici,
this room.
mais
And then once it does
lol,
that, it's already
c'est
preloaded
qu'il rentre dans la
the sequence of
salle
the game. And
sans
all
toucher
we
le
have to
sol,
do
sinon
is
ça,
fly into this room,
il va commencer le combat, genre,
hover out a little bit,
contre Trilla.
hover around a bit
Il vole un peu,
to
comme
make
il
sure we
dit,
hit that load trigger.
c'est ça, et ça trigger une sauvegarde. Comme ça, il est sûr que le jeu voit que t'es passé par là.
And then fly over an invisible
Comme ça, justement, l'ascenseur, du coup, il s'active
wall
dans le fond.
void out, and we should
Et vu qu'il a pas touché par
respawn
terre,
next to the turbo lift,
il respawn à la dernière place où il a touché par terre, c'est-à-dire à côté de l'ascenseur.
and he'll just be able to hit the button and leave.
Et vu qu'il a été dans la salle, le jeu pense que vu que t'es rendu là, bah t'as fini le combat. Mais non.
That's literally all the game checks for. So yeah, now
C'est
that's basically the game.
that
Oh,
was
c'est des
perfect.
génies ces speedrunners. J'adore, c'est tellement trop bien.
So time is coming up in probably about a minute. It will be when Cal stabs Vader through the chest. We have just a little bit more movement left to do here. It is possible, if Pinash screws around too much, to clip through the floor of this elevator and have to redo everything he just did. So it's a little bit of a tricky elevator, but
Please don't alt tab.
yeah, don't alt tab. Don't pause buffer clip through the floor of the elevator.
Ok, là il y a Vador à la fin.
Great chains of
Il va
dash.
skip ou non?
Chain down this one last hallway. Really
Non,
easy
non.
to mess up a dash cancel and just lose like a second out of nowhere.
Donc là il arrive à la fin, pretty much.
Everyone's
And so
favorite
coming
villain.
up on time here when we stab Vader.
Au moment qu'il frappe Vador, c'est la fin du temps théoriquement. En fait, c'est le dernier input, le dernier contrôle que tu fais. Le reste c'est tout des cinématiques, donc ça va être.
Grenade, invisible VD shocking, and coming up on stab and time.
Voilà. Là c'est le dernier truc que tu fais.
Amazing run.
1:45-49.
Awesome, bro.
Wow!
Great
Insane.
run. Great run, man.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you,
Wow.
guys.
What's the time?
This run has changed so much.
145. I split a bit away, like 145.50.
Oh, great run. Great run for a no reset run. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, not bad.
Official time.
145,
Magnifique pour vrai.
49.
Yep, official was 145.49.
Well done. Ah,
Awesome.
clutch, this guy.
Awesome.
That's a top 5 run right there.
It is.
And
It is.
that was all Zepho.
Bon, Zepho, la fois à plusieurs reprises, là, quand il a foiré les sauts qu'il propulsait et tout, c'est aussi compliqué. Mais il a géré Kashyyyk, qui est selon moi encore plus difficile. Kashyyyk, il a tout réussi du premier coup. Nice. C'est fou l'ingéniosité des humains parfois. Ouais, incroyable. Eh non, vraiment, les génies ces speedrunners, j'adore, j'adore.
Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Moi personnellement, je serais quand même chaud à l'avenir de tenter juste au moins la première partie sur braquage, genre, voir si on arrive à faire quelque chose de potable. Mais on verra, on s'en reparlera après Noël, genre. Parce que là, demain, j'aimerais faire le défi sur... soit demain ou dimanche, le défi sur Jedi Fallen Order qu'on avait parlé. C'est-à-dire de faire tous les boss sans mourir et sans prendre de dégâts. Si je meurs, je recommence au premier boss. On verra si j'y arrive ou non. Mais voilà. Faut voir. Est-ce qu'on met des conséquences avec ça? Je sais pas, si vous avez des idées de conséquences, allez-y, suggérez-moi là, mais... Voilà, ça serait probablement ce week-end le défi. À 5 morts, tu joues à LoL? Absolument pas, mec. Là, j'ai appris ma leçon. Et on va mettre des morts un peu plus haut pour les conséquences. Emile, tu joues à Cuphead et tu fais ce défi? Nope.
If you have any more last minute donations you want to get in here before we move on to the next run.
C'était vraiment nice. Alors, je pense vraiment, ouais, les meilleurs skips. Parce que une fois que tu voles, c'est assez facile, genre du fait que tu fais juste ça à travers les maps et puis c'est fini, genre. Tout ce qui est avant, genre la partie sur Kashyyyk, je pense que c'était les trucs les plus stylés qu'il a sortis. Genre les sauts qu'il faisait avec les bulbes, le fait de justement littéralement sortir des maps sans savoir où il va. Le skip de Saw Gerrera, la cinématique était insane. Bref. Insane. À 10 morts, tu fais Zekiro en premier. Non. Non, non. Là, de backroom, j'ai aucune idée c'est quoi. On s'en parle sur Discord des conséquences, ok? Mais voilà. Donc, soit demain, soit dimanche, je vous tiens au courant, encore une fois, justement, sur Discord pour le prochain live. Merci à vous d'être venus sur celui-ci. Je veux dire, c'est vraiment cool. J'espère que vous avez bien aimé. Là. Vous me direz si vous aimez bien le speedrun de GFO. Puis, voilà, tu connais les SCP? Non, absolument pas. Mais voilà. Donc, moi, je vais y aller sur ça. Ouais, c'était fun, là. Tant mieux, tant mieux. 4 € les backrooms. Bon à savoir. Mais j'irai me renseigner. Ça, tu vois, là, il a fait une petite erreur, malheureusement, puis ça l'a fuck, mais... Peut-être que je connais, c'est juste que le nom me dirait. Je sais pas. On verra. Un petit saut en parachute? Non, je t'ai... Bon, ça va la tempête, c'est vrai qu'il y a fucking de neige dehors en ce moment. Là, ça s'est calmé. C'est pire ce matin. C'est bon. Tu sais, genre, regardez juste le petit saut qu'il va faire là. Non, pas là. Non, je pense que c'était un peu avant, malheureusement, je l'ai manqué. Waouh! Quasiment tu fais Elden Ring. On a déjà joué à Elden Ring, ça s'est pas bien passé. C'est cool de faire un petit react aussi comme ça, je veux dire, on en fait pas souvent. Juste parler ensemble. Être chill sur un truc qu'on regarde. Ça fait du bien. Que de rager sur un jeu. Ah, c'est tellement fun, en plus il y avait des trucs what the fuck. Un petit Worms ou Fortnite. En vrai, Elden Ring c'est facile là? Non, c'est pas facile. J'ai jamais joué à un Souls de ma vie, donc peu importe le Souls, c'est difficile. Voilà. Faut demander à le tigre noir ce qu'il veut. Non, Final Fantasy. Hâte en juin, mec. Ça va être bien ça.
Did you discover that loading trigger, Panache?
Myself and Rendo worked
Well done, guys. That was a huge time save. The powered zipline that
D'ailleurs, ce que j'ai beaucoup aimé de cette run, c'est le fait que ça évolue beaucoup. Hein? Ça, je veux dire, du début, là, parce qu'il y a des speedruns, on va dire, on pense à... il me semble, alors Céleste. Right? Une fois que tu as la mécanique de dash, en général, ça va très très rapidement, puis c'est pas mal la même chose du début à la fin. Là, c'est vraiment, t'as vraiment une évolution de, ok, débloque des habilités pour me permettre d'aller encore plus vite avec des glitches, genre. Puis, c'est vraiment quand il arrive vers 1h20, genre. Ben, en fait, non plus 1h10, c'est là que ça commence à partir. Puis être la même chose. Mais tout avant, c'est une évolution de speedrun. Et ça, c'est nice à voir, genre. Parce que c'est vraiment pas répétitif. C'est ça, par exemple, trop cool. Tu vas croire que les testeurs ont pas se sont pas dit « Ah ouais, je vais essayer de faire un dash sur le truc qui propulse. » Parce que c'est sûr que ça va faire ça, genre. Mais personne n'y a pensé. Ben, même moi, j'y ai pas pensé. Magnifique. MP5 en juin. C'est vrai, c'est juste au PS5. Non, j'en ai pas. On va demander à Ganor ou Tigre Noir. Et oui, il y en a même pas en vente ici, je pense. Ils sont difficiles à trouver. Ils sont difficiles les tabarnak de PS5. Ici, il avait pris quoi, Jedi Fallen Order? Hello. Il attaque, salut. Je regarderai s'il y a pas... Attends, y a-tu? Attends, je vais faire une petite recherche. Y a-tu une speedrun de la campagne? C'est sûr qu'il y en a une. Speedrun, campagne, Battlefront 2. Je suis curieux de voir.
Skipping a good 30 seconds of map there, which that was perfect.
Alors, il y a l'ancien Battlefront 2, il y en a en tabarnak des speedruns. Tu m'étonnes. Le vieux de... très vieux.
And we're basically just turning around, getting Jedi flip, and then heading out because it grants us the ability of that we just mentioned previously. And we don't even fight the Night Sister, we just turn around.
52 minutes.
And we basically.
The other thing is that you also are supposed to get the rebreather, which is the ability to it's like
skip
Cal's,
that one day.
Cal's scuba gear. So it's you really don't technically need it. But it is kind of complicated to do the rest of the run without.
Ici, j'ai la campagne de Battlefront 2, le mec il a fini en 1h30. Nous, ça prend quoi, 5-6 heures, genre? Oh, pas rapidement. Bataille de Andorre, il a fini en 13 minutes. L'observatoire... Quoi? L'observatoire, il a fini en 26 minutes. De Jakku... Oh. C'est n'importe quoi. Puis même l'ancien Battlefront 2, 52 minutes, c'est... La campagne de l'ancien Battlefront 2, c'est long parce que justement, t'as tellement de petits ennemis à tuer tout le temps, là. Oh. Et où, là? Wow. Et de 48 minutes. C'est n'importe quoi. Oh là 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 là.
Up and get Jedi flip as fast as possible, which we're coming up to pretty quickly, actually.
Coming up very soon. This actually might be a good opportunity to read a donation in about, 30 seconds or so.
Sure.
Tu joues à Worms, Emile? Pas de conséquence de jouer à Worms, c'est trop nice Worms, mec. Je peux jouer à Worms. Mais je peux les mettre dans les conséquences juste pour le fun, ouais. On fera une liste. Tantôt, là. Ou demain. Là, t'apprends la PS5 en janvier pour FF16 et Spider-Man 2. Ouais, c'est vrai, il y a Spider-Man 2 en plus. Il me faut obligatoirement une PS5. Je sais pas comment je vais faire. Bref, on verra. C'est bénéf. Un mort égale Worm. Bon, allez,
surface if you
Pop, pop. Oh, je mis. Ah, attends, ça. Vraiment pas. Oh. Roll it. Voilà. Vite. Alright. Mais du coup, passez une très bonne soirée, les gars. Merci d'être passés. C'était vraiment cool de découvrir ça avec vous. Prenez soin de vous. Passez une puis on se revoit normalement. C'est ça demain, là. Si le bras va mieux aussi, ça aiderait. Si le bras il est toujours aussi dégueulasse, on fera ça dimanche. On se tient. Bonne soirée. Et comme toujours, et bien que la force soit avec vous et GG à tous les speedrunners. Vraiment, c'est insane ce que vous faites. J'adore. On en regardera d'autres si vous en avez que vous voulez voir là, à l'avenir. Vous me direz. On regardera ça. Anyway. May the force be with you. Et à plus. Bye bye. Ciao ciao. Caméra, elle est où? Voilà. Au revoir.